of place, out of mind like all the time. There's nothing else that feels like it's meant for me, but I've got a sweet escape. Under bright light, illuminate my face. Under bright light, it's shining down on us. Under bright light, illuminate your face. Under bright light, that's when I come alive. Baby, take me higher. I wanna see the whole sky. See the galaxy's reflection in your eyes. There's nothing that compares to this energy. I've got a sweet escape. Under bright light, illuminate my face. Under bright light, it's shining down on us. Under bright light, illuminate your face. Under bright light, that's when I come alive.
is going on, everybody? Welcome back to day two of the season 12 drafts. We are back in the booth for the Challenger League, and I'm joined by two handsome looking men out here in the casters booth. Looking great tonight, guys. Speed and Mealy. Speed, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing much better. I got a little tired towards the end of last night's adventures after working all day, having a long work week, but rested up today. I should have full energy, full life for this whole stream. And it's our top three leagues, Rocker Man. So, these are some of the best that Nemesis has to offer. So I'm excited to see how things shake up.
Oh yeah, it's another exciting day, and yeah, you mentioned it. The top three leagues all tonight here, so we got a big night in store for you guys, and we had to bring out the big guns for this one. We had to bring out Mr. Mealy in the booth. Mealy, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been a pretty good day. Slept on my teams so far overnight from novice and prospect, and honestly, I ran some games with them last night after the draft, and honestly, I think I cooked. I'm not gonna lie, especially in novice. I think you guys mentioned it last night. I was pretty much just taking like top players off the board, and yeah, so far I'm loving every single one of them. So I'm happy with my first two teams so far, and I'm super excited to see where these three drafts go, and see where my two teams end up here.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was a fun first day, and we've got day two just about get underway here. So I gotta give a couple quick shout outs, a couple that we missed yesterday. Shout out to Zadok for the resub for 2 months, and then a huge shout out to JP gifting 40 subs tonight here. So give some love out there in the chat to Mr. JP, the GM there with the number one overall pick. He's building. I don't know what he's building out here, but he's building something with those. So much appreciated, JP. And also shout out to Fort coming back for 22 months as well. So much love to all of you guys here to support the stream and about to get things rolling. So with that being said, we will head on over here, and I guess we'll get things underway here in the Challenger League draft. Why not waste any more time? Let's get our good friends Motion and JP on the clock here and start them up here. And yeah, Speed, there's a lot to be looking at here tonight for this draft. Some big names on the board. Some people have been making a lot of trades out here in the Challenger League.
Lots of trades. I think it's always one of the most hottest leagues when it comes to trading preseason, pre-draft. Everyone really wants that middle team, the Chally League, to really be good. Those picks are a hot commodity, and we see Motion getting two top three picks here after the draft lottery, and they already have JP, which JP, yes, he is a lower sal sitting at kind of lower sal, right in the middle, honestly, 1531. So they really have a lot of direction that they can go with these two picks. So definitely interested to see where they're going to start off. I could see them going all the way up and getting someone like Hydro, who's a rival drop down, actually from my org, or one of the other four, five, six, what, seven, 1600 pluses that are in here, but we'll see.
Yeah, we will definitely see. And the first pick is coming through on the board there, wasting no time. And this guy has been someone a lot of people are looking at there. Motion is going to go ahead and select Stacked, who was a great player last season on the Samurai. Now head into the draft here, going number one overall off the board there, Mealy. And hey, when you make it to the grand finals, you give yourself a good shot to be picked up at number one here.
Yeah, absolutely. In my personal opinion, you really couldn't go wrong with this first overall pick for Motion. No matter what JP decided to do for his team there, I think he was going to get an absolute stud of a player. Picking up Stack there, I wonder if he's got some plans, maybe looking, because like I know Speed said, we got Motion with the third pick as well. So he might be trying to cook up a potential duo with Stack. So we'll have to see with that. But Stack, and overall great player. Unfortunately, lost in the grand finals last season. Looking to make a run this season.
Yeah, hopefully he can turn things around a little bit and make it back, and give his team a good shot there. Try and turn things around for Motion. Yeah, with JP on the roster, so definitely a great first round pick. Very active, very solid player, and I like what I like that selection for sure. Like you mentioned, couldn't really go wrong in the first round there. And that's going to throw the Assassins on the clock. And while we wait for the Assassins, quick shout out to Norm RL with the sub with Prime. Much appreciated. Much love, much support there on that one. But yeah, the Assassins here going through. They made a couple of trades here. A big one with Zanzibar on the roster. They have acquired courses via trade in the offseason, and they are going to go ahead and pick up Squirrel on this one. And
Legend.
the legendary Squirrel going number 2 overall. Not a big surprise to me, but Squirrel to the Assassins is a little bit crazy. And seeing courses and Squirrel, former Evolution members in my org, going over there, that is spicy. That is spicy for sure, right there.
It really is, and it doesn't surprise me, Squirrel. Even though he's sitting at a little bit on the lower side of MMR, going number 2 to the Assassins, who already had 2 members on their team. Kind of not surprising at all. Still leaves him with 1573. You would have thought Sands maybe wanted to go with that higher route first, but with Squirrel being known, with Squirrel being who he is, has played so many seasons in the rival league, took a little break due to IRL work changes and whatnot, and now he's back and he's sitting in Chally, so he's definitely a great pickup there at number 2.
Yeah,
Yeah,
oh, go ahead, Mealy.
I was gonna say, yeah, I feel like Squirrel is a very safe pick. Everybody knows Squirrel. He's a very good player. Has been around for a while. And him paired up with Courses, who, correct me if I'm wrong, but he has a rival drop down. That could be a very killer, front 2 there in that team. So I'm kind of excited to see what they decide to do with the remaining cap space.
Yeah, both of them are actually rival drop downs from seasons ago. Squirrel, Pineapples at one point, and yeah, Courses, he was on my rival team. I believe he was. I don't know if he was on Pineapples this last season or not. I can't recall, but I know he was in the Papayas when the new public player sheet was released, and then he got traded over. So spicy moves out there for sure. And another spicy pick is going to come through on the board, and maybe a little bit expected here. Coming through next up is going to go for Motion, who have been on the clock. They're going to go ahead and they are going to select Clouds with their selection. Former finals MVP, former champion of the league here. So a great selection out there. And then Venom, they were also wasting no time with their pick. Looks like they knew exactly who they wanted. And this is a person that, I'm surprised even went down to 4 at this point. And that is going to be Kopente, defending, reigning Challenger League MVP Kopente right there. And runner-up last season. So those Samurai, the bunch that split up a little bit, they moved around a little bit, and now we see Clouds and Kopente both off the board here. Top 4 picks.
Yeah, top 4 picks from the Samurai, who had a beautiful run and got stopped by that Venom team in the grand finals. So Kopente now going to be one of those members on Venom. It's definitely going to be hard to still, take on that Yukio Fort duo, let alone now adding Kopente, the regular season MVP from Chally last season. That team being in their division is a lot scary, especially as I only have 1 player on my roster right now, and both the Assassins and Venom already have 3-man rosters.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, I wanted to go back to Clouds real quick, just because I feel like we didn't give him enough props. That team so far is actually looking insane to me. Clouds, in my opinion, could very well arguably be the most mechanical challenger player of this season. And him with Stacked and JP so far, honestly, kind of makes me nervous for that game. And obviously, like I said, moving down, Kopente going down to Venom. I know him and Fort are, very close friends, so they already have a little bit of chemistry paired up with Yukio. Venom's probably going to make another hard playoff push this season.
Yeah, I mean, what else would you expect from the 4-time champions? Just they somehow find a way, and obviously they made some moves there, but Kopente, Yukio, Fort, that again is a scary trio, and they still have room down there to select 1497 or below. So they still got more than enough room to grab up a sub there. So we'll have to see. Let's see what the defending champions, one of the most historic challenger teams, ends up doing there for their last pick. But clearly a solid 3-man start there. And then Papayas are going to come through and they are going to select Huntu with their selection. So we got Huntu going pretty much to the top of the board, 1601, pairing with Critter and Crotera, waiting to see about their last pick. They got a lot of MMR remaining there, as the Griffins and Mr. Mealy are on the clock. Going to take a little bit of a think here and speed while he does. So what do you think? What do you make of the Huntu pick and how the Papayas are looking right now?
You got Critter and Crotera. They were a menace last season in Prospect. They are moving up together in Chally. They have chemistry. They've been friends IRL for a long time. So they just have that chemistry. And then you pair someone like Huntu, who is a really, really good, solid player. Easily top 10 player in Chally. Based off of his MMR and how we know he can play. That roster is also getting pretty scary. So there's a lot of scary rosters already. Just like what we saw in Prospect, everything's going to shape out. And I don't think by the time the draft's done, you're going to look at a singular team and be like, I really don't know if this team can compete. I think every team is going to be able to find a way to be able to really compete this season because there's just so many really great names after the league's been here for so long. And time after time, all these players now finding themselves in a league, and they've always been considered a GOAT. And now that they're just all in the league, and it's getting pretty crazy.
Yeah, it is. As the next pick is going to come through, but yeah, you're exactly right. There's a lot of great players, who made Nemesis runs before. A lot of veterans. And speaking of a veteran, Mealy, you're going to take one off the board there with your first round pick here.
Yeah, we got our guy. That's the most important thing that I wanted to go through with this draft. J-Rad and I, we went pretty much all in on Kiwi. Sought him out. I remember that he was a player from a couple seasons ago that I went up against and probably lost to. And I know he's been here for a while and is consistently in this challenger kind of rival MMR, not only in 2s and in 3s. And I mean, for those who know me, like I'm a sucker for 3v3. Like if you're good at 3s, I love you as a player. So that mix with J-Rod and myself, we're hoping that we have a solid trio of like 3s mains. And the hope is, that we go through, make it to playoffs, and instead of losing and coming up just short for a 3rd season in a row for the Griffins, that we can finally make it to another grand finals and hopefully take one home.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that selection, and like I mentioned, that's a Nemesis veteran there, and maybe sniped him right before the Drakes, his former team, the team I'm most associated with, got him. So that's a very solid pickup. You can't go wrong with Kiwi, like you mentioned, a veteran, and he's gonna make a good one there for sure. 1480 remaining for the Griffins to work with. So yes, Speed. I like that. I like that selection from them, from Griffins, and then also Drake's coming in a little bit of an unknown for me, but obviously they know something because they got, I believe it's Matthias Maximus coming through.
Matthias Maximus. He's a UR player.
Okay.
Yep. He's a UR player. Brother and Bunda knew exactly what they were doing. Yeah, I'm sure Kiwi going back to, his familiar org would have been huge, but they had their mindset on this player. I can tell you since he joined the league. They might have even convinced him to join the league. He's been one of the standout players over there for the league. That's right around the top of prospect into challenger style for the last 2 seasons, where he's consistently fighting for top goals in the league and everything else. So pair that up with Brother, who's also one of the top, always goal scorers, and you got 2 really scary threats on that team now. And then Bondo, just an all-around great, great all-around player. Obviously, Brother and Bondo have been together for seasons now as well. So you add Mattias to that combo, and I think that's going to be really scary.
Yeah, no, that's going to be interesting. Like I said, I don't know too much about him, so we'll take your word for it. But yeah, that could be a scary trio right there, and still 1573 to work with, depending on how they want to go about grabbing that last player. So we'll see what they can do. We'll see what they can do for sure there. As the next pick is going to come in, another Nemesis veteran here, Smith is going to go off the board. I believe he was on motion last season, but heading over to the race there to pair with Makarios. on that in that central division there. So another solid selection right there going off the board at number 8. And it's going to throw the bishops on the clock. But yeah, Mealy, a couple of teams now have kind of got their 3-man rosters set up, and there's still a couple of teams that are very very open for anything really.
Yeah, and I know you say too that like a couple of teams have their 3-man rosters, but some of them are still looking for that potentially high MMR player as well. I know, like we're looking at Assassins we mentioned a few minutes ago. They still have 1573 left on their cap, so we'll be looking forward to see who they choose as their more top end MMR player. And like we just said, same with Drake's over there with also 1573 paired up with Maximus, who again I also don't know anything about, but I would assume if Brother and Bondo both know him, then they already have some chemistry. So I'm sure that's a great pickup for them. But yeah, they still have a lot to work with 2 other players on that team with Maximus that are, in my opinion, higher than what their MMR salary is. So yeah, that's definitely going to be a team to look out for as well. But like I said, we're starting to see some of these teams shape up already, and we're not even fully through this first round. We're halfway through this first round, honestly.
Yeah, no, halfway through, and yeah, some teams are shaping up. We got a lot of, yeah, like I mentioned, a lot of well-known names going off the first round. I think everyone has played in Nemesis before, except for Mattias down there on the Drakes. So definitely some good selections for sure. And the Bishops are taking their time here. 30 seconds now left for the Bishops to make their selection. Otherwise, they'll be moved to the end of the round. So I'll love to see what Mr. Speed is gonna cook up here for his selection, and he's got it in, and he's gonna go ahead and select Bmar, another veteran off the board, another great selection. Speed, what do you like it about Mr. Bmar there?
I mean, it's Bmar. Everyone knows what Bmar can do. It's another safe kind of pick. I know what I'm getting with Bmar, and I think him and Shun are going to be a force to be reckoned with. After looking at all these teams RDB made, I was gonna kind of go a little less on the higher MMR because Shun is a tier max. And Bmar doesn't leave a lot of room for the last 2. Averages about a little over 1,500 players. So I wasn't sure if I wanted to pull that trigger and do that, but I decided to take Bmar. I know what I'm getting, and I know he's gonna be another solid player.
Yeah, no, you can't go wrong with Bmar. I like that pick as well. Off the board there, and yeah, Shun, the rival drop down, very top of challenger, getting paired with another high player there. That's a solid selection there, and yeah, it looks like I'm on the board. And I'm consulting with my AGM. So, and I think we're on the same page here. Um, yeah,
Who's
well, I
it
guess
gonna be?
I think well, here I'll let you guys take over while I converse with my AGM. But I think I kind of know where I'm going with Ascension here for this one.
I mean, I'm curious to know where you're starting to go. Like, what kind of player are you looking for? I mean, you have a full empty roster, so I mean, you could just go anything at this point.
That's
Yeah,
true.
you definitely could. Empty roster. This is kind of huge for them, honestly, because obviously this player you draft, you're probably going to want him to be on the higher side of things. So I could see someone like Strato possibly being a
Ooh.
good pickup for you guys. Someone that's been known in the league, knows a lot of players. So once you draft this first player, and then start speaking with that player and say, hey, who's some players as your next picks come along that it's looking interesting you, around certain MMR ranges that you're trying to wanting to build your team around. So I could see it going up to like Strato, um, or even taking Hydro. Hydra's a rival drop down. You could go a little lower to someone like Moxiner or Caliber Panzer, Ryan Gav, the novice, bring up. But yeah, I'm definitely interested to see on where Rockerman and his org's gonna go.
Yeah, I mean, we've only got 45 seconds to make this decision, though. Speed.
Ye-
This is getting interesting.
Yeah, we ran into a little snag here
Ooh.
on who we were gonna select, and I was eyeing this person up, and I think we are gonna do this one here.
Did I
You got
snipe
about
him right
15
before you?
seconds to think more.
Actually, I'm gonna do this first. All right. I'm bringing him back. I'm taking Bowser here. I'm switching things up a little
Oh
bit on this
no.
one, but I'm bringing Mr. I guess he's Bowsy, Mr. Bowsy back at the last second here. I wasn't sure. Oh, well, we had to switch things up a little bit, but I'm going for a well-known name. He came in here kind of late, I think, onto the draftee board, but I went a little bit lower, and hopefully it'll pay off. I think with an open roster, getting a well-known name is important. So that's where we ended up going here.
That's definitely a great pick. Bowser 1526 MMR on the sheet. Everyone knows Bowser plays better than a 1526. Bowser's in so many leagues and games that he plays the bear not necessarily on purpose, but he only gets enough games in to be able to be active and be able to be in these leagues, and then all his other time is going into actual league games, practicing, scrimming. Um, so yes, Bowser 1526, but Bowser, we all know Bowser can play way better than that. So you're like getting a top sell when you're getting Bowser.
Yeah, I really like Bowser. He's a cool guy as well. I enjoyed playing with him when we were playing in Challenger a couple seasons ago, and I think he's a very solid player, very solid mechanically, and just a great player. So I'm happy to have him on board, and I think with the time ticking down, I think it was a safe little selection there to take him off the board, especially after the original plan got shaken up a little bit at the last minute. But hey, that's how things go sometimes, Mealy. As a GM, sometimes you get to the last minute and your plans just get foiled, and you gotta maneuver on the fly.
Yeah, and it's funny you say that actually. Kind of looping back to my pick, I ended up looking through the Twitch chat here, and it looks like that the Papayas, funny enough, actually, also had their eye on Kiwi because Kiwi attended one of their tryouts. So if he got sniped one pick before me, I probably would have been in full panic mode and not would have known what to do. So these things happen. They happen more than you think. So that's part of what's being a GM is you gotta think on your feet. Plans don't always go according to plan, and you gotta have backup options ready.
Yeah, that's true. It's a tough game sometimes out here as a GM. So yeah, like you mentioned, you gotta be ready to maneuver and do what you got to do. So and as we were discussing, a couple of picks have come in off the board. There we got Bonks going to the race. I kind of like that name, Bonks. And then we got Seven going off the board to dissolve there. So two more picks coming through their speed. Someone who is new to the league, and then someone who's been in the league for a while there, going back to back.
Yeah. Starting off with Bunks. Bunks. I'm not too familiar, unless if that's who I'm thinking it is. And if Zare, if you're still in the chat and you can confirm this with me, is that the Bunks from that teams with Bowsy over and you are? If so, that's a great pickup to go with Race. He's a really great player. It is not okay. So I'm not sure who Bunks is entirely off the top of my head then. But you know, still leaves them with a solid option for a fourth. Um, you know, gives them a couple players down there to pick from, but that seven pickup from Dissolved. I've been talking to Street a lot lately, and I didn't know seven was on their draft board. I know we've kind of discussed it a little bit. That I wasn't going to be able to go that high with my first draft pick. So he was kind of letting me know where he was looking at, and but that's a great pickup. Seven's been in the league for a while. Had a couple name changes here and there, as we know. But last minute, he had put in his name to draft him in his team because him and a buddy were trying to get on the same team together, but he just wanted to make it sure that even if that wasn't possible, he'd still come play and it wouldn't be an issue. So I'm glad he was able to get picked up, especially in the first round where he deserves to be picked up.
Yeah, solid selection there and dissolved. Trying to make a little bit of a run down there. Could be running into a tough division, like we mentioned. With you got the Drakes, you got Motion, and you have Samurai in there. Not historically a great division in, I guess, in every league, but um, they're looking pretty good this season. Amelia, I have to say, we talked about the Motion squad, we talked about the Drakes, and now dissolved with that empty roster, trying to build something there, and then Samurai right now the defending runner-ups only have sites on the roster, so both those two teams trying to find a way to compete in the division. And Dissolve going to start out with seven there.
Yeah, I can't remember exactly what draft it was last night, but I kind of was talking to some of my guys when I was in my org server. We were, doing a little watch party. But this happened as well in one of those drafts where it's like half the teams are almost already full. Like they're going to be full in the second round if they have second round picks, and then the other half the teams only have one player. So it's very interesting to see, like what the dynamic is of this draft. Who's taking who and what directions people are going. Because yeah, I mean, right now we have one, two, three, four, five, six teams with three players already. And we have a couple that are still looking for their first player. Like we said, Dissolve just took theirs, and Orbit's looking for theirs, I think, in the second round, I believe. And then we have a couple more with one player. So there's a lot of talent in Challenger that I've been seeing. I mean, we have a lot of players this season. And out of those players, there's a lot of names that I recognize that I would put money down that are going to get drafted tonight, and it's going to create some scary looking teams.
Yeah, there are still a lot of players available, and Speed. Maybe you can give us a rundown of some of those players without too much spoiling your plan, maybe necessarily. But who are some big names you're looking at on the board right now that we could see to finish off this first round as Visk is selected to the Raptors.
Yeah, Visk. I don't know much about Visk, but it doesn't surprise me that they have a plan and they're gonna stick to their plan. Uh, you got powerful pink pony over there. As we all know, has been in the league for a while. He's going to draft the team that he wants, but with Snowstorm, Hellcats, and Flame, still left to pick, and both of those rosters, having plenty of room. All three of those rosters actually having plenty of room. You can still afford, your top sales. So you're looking at Hydro dropping down. You're looking at iTrots, Flying Swan, Strato, Moxon, Caliber, all in that top list. But if you're trying to go in a different direction, Batchy Rat is always a great option, kind of there in the middle. That's been in the league for a while. Um, it's Tricky is a great option for people that may not know him. He's from UR. He's my teammate over in UR. He's a great option there in the kind of in the middle. AAA has been in the league for a while here and there. Great option. And then you start going down towards the bottom of the MMR. You got Seawall, great player. Um, Peanut, obviously, we know Peanut. Peanut can perform. Peanut, had that stellar run last year on Ember and Prospect. So there's still a lot of great options for all these teams to go with. It's kind of just what direction do they want to go with? Do they want to have a more balanced MMR, or are you trying to go, you know, too top heavy and then too bottom heavy?
Yeah, no, that's true, and that's the difficulty with MMR caps. You got to make sure everyone is gonna fit in that 4-man roster. You can't just go ahead and select all the highest MMRs. So the strategy is definitely involved. And yeah, we mentioned Visk going to the Raptors there. Yeah, with the powerful pink pony. So that'll be interesting to see Central Division foe there filling up a little bit there, and Snowstorm going to come through, and they are going to go ahead and select iTrots with their selection. So again, another player that we've seen in Nemesis in the past, and he's going to be heading off the board to Snowstorm, trying to fill up their roster for the season, see if they can make another good solid run there like last season. But yeah, iTrots off the board now.
Yeah,
Yeah,
iTrots.
honestly, you go.
No, I was just gonna say iTrots, really solid player, top of the board there. Definitely gonna pair well with Krates and Dan, who know iTrots well.
That's pretty much the same exact thing I was going to say. I was say that's a very good pickup for Dan. Him, Crates, and iTrots. Yet again, another scary team in my opinion. I don't love that. That's within my division. I got to play him twice. But yeah, no. Looking forward. They have what 14.99 left. I mean, there's not like too many players that they can pick up, but it's more than me.
Yeah, no, they're making their selection, and yeah, hey, you got to find the players you can get. You got to use up all that MMR when you can there. So yeah, iTrots, Crates, and Dan. That will be interesting to see. iTrots at 1606. I know Dan has been grinding a lot with DJD recently. Been seeing them all over the place grinding. So I know he's been grinding, trying to work things out for Snowstorm there. So we'll see what iTrots can bring to the table, and then Cozy Boy coming through here, making his first selection of the night. Going to go ahead and select Stroudo, one of my former teammates back in season 4 when we won the championship. Um, and he's going to be heading to the Hellcats there with that selection, putting Flame on the board. And Flame is going to make their selection as well, selecting Hayakir. I think that's how you pronounce that. So last one off the Hayakir is going to be the last one off the board there in the first round. So first round, all but complete there. And Speed, what do you make of the last couple selections there?
I think Strato and Sky Newbie is gonna be you know, a great double-headed monster over there for the Hellcats. I don't know anything about Hayakir, but again, local being in the league for so long, obviously we know he's gonna cook up something. He knows the plan that he's want. He's been begging all GMs, posting in, trade block, asking for as many Chally picks as he can to get the roster that he had in plan, that he had in mind. So hopefully this was one of them. Um, but yeah, no, overall, I think the first round so far has been great. I mean, you're seeing a lot of scary teams, a lot of teams that already have 3 players, the teams that have 2 players, they're starting to look good. Even just the teams that have 1 player, Samurai, Dissolved, your Ascension team with Bowser, those are really good players to build off of. Orbit doesn't have anyone on the roster, but I do know they have the first pick here in the second round when we get to it. So they're going to get someone there, and there's still plenty of great names on the board. So, their roster is going to start looking, well as well.
Yeah, well, as you mentioned that, let's transition over and send it to round number 2 here, as they are Orbit is officially on the clock, and they made that last minute trade out there to get to this spot. So they were eager to move up a pick swap there with the Assassins, who moved to the bottom of the round, and Orbit moved to the top. So they were itching and ready to go there, Mealy, to make their selection. And yeah, what do you think? What do you think of Orbit coming up here? And maybe what were your thoughts on the first round? And maybe the people are still hanging out.
So after that first round, I'm noticing out of the draftee list that there are a lot of names still that are first round like capable players, or players that I would assume would go in the first round. Maybe if the player pool is a little bit less. So I think some of these teams are going to get players in the second round that are actually first round talent. And one of those teams, I mean, now that we're on their first pick here, one of those teams that I think are going to really benefit from this is Orbit, because they don't have not one. I'm assuming 2 based on what it shows on stream, but we do have like on our draft order, it does say that Orbit has pick 25 as well, but I think that might be a typo now, or 29, one of those. So at first I was thinking Orbit had 3 second round picks, and I was gonna be like, oh my goodness, like they have no players after the first round, but they're gonna have 3 potentially in the second, and that was gonna be a complete flip in my opinion. But we do have Orbit's first selection coming in, Rocker Man.
Yeah, Orbit is gonna select Seawall, and yeah, it was right logo on there, wrong name. But we gotta correct it. So you are right. Orbit does have that 25th pick there at the top. So they got 3 picks coming in this round, and they are wasting no time with selecting Seawall off the board there, who we saw for many seasons as well. Another veteran, kind of like you mentioned, a lot of great players still hanging around, and Seawall, one of those players. And that's someone you want to get start your roster out, and he's actually going pretty low to get Seawall there, 15-12. So DJD trying to hit that middle bottom of the barrel and speed. That's kind of something with the strategy too that you kind of see throughout the drafts is when do you go high? When do you go after those high people? When do you go after those lower MR people? There's times to go after both.
Yeah, and right now I think DJD made the right plan, right? There's a lot of teams with 3 players left who are only now looking at getting these low MMR players. So to guarantee that you get the low MMR players that you want, aka Seawall here, who we all know is way better than a 15-12. He's proved himself time and time again. That's a great starting point for your team, especially when he knows he has 2 more picks coming up later down in this round to be able to start getting those higher MMR players where most of these teams now can't reach those players. So he definitely made the right timing there on that one, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely so. And the Hellcats now on the clock here, and we're gonna have to see what they can cook up. Mealy, what are you looking at for the Hellcats, Mister Cozy Boy, to make happen here?
I have no idea what he might be thinking. Taking Strato in the first round was a very good pick. Like I think Speed brought it up actually with Sky Newbie. That's going to be a great like first two player start to your roster. He's got what 3,100 left. He could really go anywhere he wants. And depending on his pick, I don't know if there's anybody on this board who plays well or has played in the past with Strato or Sky Newbie that maybe he could be targeting, or if he's potentially going to throw a dart at the dartboard. That's a strategy that's actually worked before. But I say that, and it looks like he did actually make his selection.
Yeah, Hellcat's gonna select Aeon, and as we continue on, I gotta welcome someone to the booth here. Mallow making his return from last night. Mallow, happy to have you here. Getting things going in the second round for Chally. How are you doing tonight? Welcome to the booth.
I'm doing good. So excited I slept over. That's how excited I was
it
about the draft last night
was
and
a long day.
this up. Yeah, and for the draft tonight, I was looking over the picks so far, and uh, I wouldn't say there's some surprises, but there's definitely some that I definitely expected to go where they went. So far, I definitely agree with Qual, with what Speed said there. So everyone coming up here, I think actually Samurai got their next pick in as well.
Yes, Samurai gonna select Zaire with their pick, and Aeon going to the Hellcats. I think Aeon was on the Hellcats at least at some point that I recognize. At least they've been around for a while too. Zaire new, but those defending runner ups are trying to get something going there after a great season. Only Stites re-signing there, and they're gonna pick up a Zaire with their pick. And yeah, Aeon and Zaire both off the board here to start off round number 2.
Yes, there's another, and there's another UR member that joined as UR is coming to a close in that season. So it's kind of perfect timing for all these um, UR players coming over. And I'm surprised Stites went with Zaire. I don't know if they held any tryouts, and I'm not familiar with Stites knowing Zaire, but either way, that's a great pickup. Zaire has been consistently a top contender over in UR, and I think he's gonna fare very well over here in Nemesis as well.
Oh, there we go. We got a pronunciation. Maybe I'm getting a little more foreign on that name, but we'll go with Zaire. And I think there's probably an E for Zaire. That's the name I'm thinking of. Zaire with an E, but Zaire. Apologies, but Zaire going off to the Samurai, and then Motion. They are coming through, making their selection already. Gonna go ahead and select Ghost Bacon with their pick. So they're wasting no time. Again, another person we'll recognize, and another solid player as they are trying to pretty much close out their roster very shortly here. I think was that their last pick? That was their last pick to close out their roster. So Ghost Bacon rounding things out with that final pick and going to throw Dissolved on the clock.
And Mealy, that kind of puts you guys in a hole now, as there is no one left for you guys to be able to fill your roster.
Oh, it is not just us, my friend. I was just about to say, I have a feeling that I could be wrong, but I mean, JP's a smart guy. He might be just trying to stick it to myself and Jarhead because they also only have 1480. So neither us nor Race can afford a fourth guy right now.
Oh wow, the strategy.
Who's gonna pay the most for Ghost Bacon? Who's gonna pay for Ghost Bacon? Another novice to Chally promo. Him and Ryan Gav were the only two, I believe, that went from novice all the way up to challenger this season. Both of them have obviously improved immensely. So I don't know if that's someone that they were actually considering and keeping, or if that is just a play, because they do have room to be able to get some of these other lower MMR players.
Yeah, that is that's the strategy out there for sure. You see an opportunity, and you push the boundaries a little bit, and if you're a little bit too risky, you can kind of screw yourself over a little bit. And well, that is going to be unfortunate for a couple of those teams, but there's always room for some more lower MMR players to join the league. So we'll have to see what happens down there. As
offering you some cap space as well. I see that.
Yeah, and JP apologizing by gifting 10 subs. So much love to JP Appreciate the 10 gifted subs in the chat. Much love to you. And I guess Mealy, can we accept that apology with 10 gifted? I think we have to.
Yeah, absolutely. And Jax even DM'd me too, and he said it wasn't personal. So if they're saying so, I'll believe him. I got no beef with anybody. I mean, Ghost Bacon's a really good player too. So to be completely honest, like that's a solid pickup. I can't complain.
Yeah, true. I don't blame him. It's a good selection too, and another good selection. Mala coming off the board for Dissolved is going to be Moxon, and then the Raptors are coming through right behind, and they are going to select Flying Swan off the board with their pick right there.
Yeah, there's been an influx of other leagues coming in here. Speed specifically mentioned UR, and I think a lot of these players I don't recognize are either potential players who didn't play a lot last season, or they're coming from UR, and I'm not familiar with either of those players there. So. Going in the second round, though, when you're getting picked up in the second round, someone has to know something about you. So I would suspect that they are good for the team one way or the other. So congrats to both of them getting picked up in the second round. And I know we're still kind of early in this Challenger draft. We really only have one more round because round 4 there's really no picks. So um, for all of these Challenger players here that don't get picked up, don't be discouraged, because you're gonna get the call sometime during the season, whether it's to be an FA sub or potentially signed because the chemistry doesn't work out for a team. So I do want to go ahead and say that ahead of time, because I do see a lot of players out there still on the board. So don't get discouraged if you don't get picked up in this next half round or the third round. You will get your opportunity.
Yeah, that is a good point, and yeah, that is another. There's actually two good points you made there about getting picked up, and then also about the fourth round being completely empty. All these teams had, well, at least all the teams, all the picks in the last round, teams are unable to use them because their rosters are going to be full. So no picks in the fourth round. So that means we only got round 2 and then round 3, and that's all she wrote after that. So yeah, the time is a ticking for sure. But yeah, Moxon, I believe, was on Venom last season. The champions out there. I think he ended up being the sub, but he was a starter for quite some time. And Swan, I believe I recognized from Hellcats at some point. But another couple selections there. And then the next one going off the board here, Papayas are going to go ahead and select Spaceman off the list here, and gonna add another player to their roster here.
I will say that's why I don't do too much commentary, because I have a memory of a goldfish. Because now that you mention it, I do recall Moxon a little bit. But yeah, Spaceman rounding up the Papayas lineup here, and once again, not familiar with the name, but we do allow name changes and such, so that could also be a thing. But Speed or Mealy, you got any insight on Spaceman here?
I do not. I don't recognize the name. I don't recognize it being a name change. I don't know him from any other leagues, so I'm blind here on this one. But with Critter and Cortera being the two-headed monster over there, making these roster decisions for the Papayas, as both of them are AGMs, I believe. They know something that we don't know, and Critter and Cortera have consistently made deep playoff runs, so they obviously know what they're doing.
Definitely so. And yeah, Spaceman going off the board. And then next up on the list is going to go Ryan Gav, who I was looking at him actually earlier too, coming all the way up from novice, kind of helped carry that Pawns team Speed to the grand finals there. Unfortunately, couldn't quite seal the deal, but MVP and, bringing the team to the finals there, moving all the way up to high challenger. That guy made quite some gains in the offseason, and Orbit gonna snag him up.
Yes, he has, and I believe he might have even surpassed that peak already since MMRs have locked. He's just on this massive tear right now. Something with his mechs, he's always had, but something with his rotations and has clearly clicked, whether he got coaching or he just decided to, really lock in. But whatever he did has helped him, and it's helped him immensely. As he made a comment in the Discord earlier that he's up in the last like 2 months, since it really clicked. He's up over 400 MMR.
That's insane.
It's
Oh.
pretty good, I'd say.
It's a bit of a jump. It's a bit of a jump. Yeah. Yeah, Ascension, you almost had him there, Rocker Man, because it looks like you're on the clock now. So
Mhm.
so close there. But yeah, Ryan Gab is a very good pickup, and going to orbit with Seawall. DJD may be cooking up something over there.
Yeah, and forgive me for a second. I'm trying to work
Rockerman's
it out
busy,
here.
so we'll keep him
Yeah.
off the mic as
Thank
he's
you.
trying to figure out who Bowsy's next teammate is going to be. With Bowser being solo, he's got a plenty of room to go with. He's got plenty of options, but overall, these teams are starting to look very scary. You got Seawall, you got Ryan Gav, as we just stated on that. Papyrus filled out theirs. We're looking at the finished production of Wraiths and Griffins, so we're seeing all these final teams right now and how they're stacked up and looking. And I know, Mealy, you only have 3 guys, right? Obviously, you got room for another lower MMR player to join the league and be able to snag them up. But until that happens, you have your boy Ad Tyso on your prospect team in case anything happens. He was a Charlie drop down. So, yes, you're missing out on not having a technical sub, but you have your close friend in Ad Tyso to step up if for some reason one of you 3 can't make it.
Yeah, I can't lie, and I will be honest here and say that did go through my head when we were looking at Kiwi when I was doing the math. And I said, well, we only have one player available right now that we could take, and if we don't get him, well, at the very worst, if we need a sub up, we have the guy that we literally went all season playing with last season. So it's not like it would be, like a random, fill in. So in a way, we kind of have our 4th, but obviously, we don't want to have to end up necessarily relying on him. So hopefully all of our availabilities are going to be okay. With that said, I do know that J-Rod's not going to be here for the first week already, so this will be interesting to see how this all plays out.
Yeah, that will be interesting, and it's a good point you bring up with the new rule change for the postseason, allowing one lower league sub up to play. You need that 4-man roster, so it makes it important. If you don't have a 4-man roster, you can't sub up from the lower leagues. So you need to have that for us. So it could get spicy. I'm not trying to scare you there, Mealy, but
Okay.
just point out a little new rule change that is useful for teams this season is making use of that 4-man roster, and if 2 people can't make it, you can call up from a lower league. So it's a change we haven't made before, and it's something a lot of people are considering here. I'm sure when making their teams coming up for this season. And
Yeah, just gonna have to recruit
yeah, yeah,
And
pretty much.
recruit
And
more.
Rockerman, looks like 2 more picks come in. Who did you pick up?
Yeah, we're gonna go ahead and select Mo Bamba with our pick here, formerly known as Mo Buzz. He's been around in Nemesis for quite some time here. A very solid player. He's got some great stats. I've seen him play quite a bit here. Played against him, and I like the pickup pairing him with Bowsy. We're kind of going on the lower end again. Just seeing the lower end of people. And with our strategy in the draft, like I mentioned, or like kind of mentioned earlier, when those lower people got sniped, is taking those lower diamonds and then saving up for maybe a higher MR player at the end. But 215-26 is on the board. I like Mobamba heading over with Bowsy. I'm interested to see how those 2 are going to pair up. And then Peanut is going off the board for that selection to the Drakes. And then the Bishops coming through and selecting Goose with their selection, heading over to the Bishops. So 2 more picks coming off the board there. I guess, Speed, I'll throw it to you since you're the one that selected Mr. Goose with the selection there for Bishops, and then maybe you can talk about Peanut as well.
Yeah, so Goose, another UR native. I know I've been saying that a lot these last 2 draft nights as it's just been a huge influx, but new to the league here in Nemesis, Goose, I've known him for a while over in UR. Kind of same thing that you were just talking about. I decided to go to the lower end of things for right now, seeing with what teams have left for cap space, and decided to lock up, that lower below 1,500 player, getting a player that I know that I can trust. He had stated to me earlier, he said, "How do I get on your team? Do I have to beat you in chess?" And I said, "No, you just have to be good at RL." And he said, "Dang, well, I guess I'm out." And I said, "Or you have to be cute." And he said, "I'm back in." So he took that answer, acceptable. He thinks he's cute. And that's all that matters. I believe in him. He should believe in himself, and I think he's going to pair up well with Shun and Bmar. But Peanut, on the other hand, Peanut, great player. I know he doesn't quite think he belongs in Challenger, but I know he can handle it just fine. And to pair him up well on that Mattias, Brother, and Bondo roster, they could have gone way higher, but they see his potential as well. They could have got an extra 1570 player if they really wanted to. But they chose Peanut there, and that should boost his morale a little bit, knowing that they had plenty of room to go higher and chose to get him. I think it's a great pickup.
Solid there as some more picks are coming off the board. We're hitting the rapid fire portion of the draft where teams have been doing a little bit of scouting. And the next couple that we can see off the board here, we got Juan Sanchez and then Zerko coming through on Snowstorm. So a couple of solid selections. Going to throw the Samurai back on the board. Really know anything about Juan Sanchez or Zerko, or about how the teams are composing at the moment?
I do not remember anything about Juan Sanchez other than I think he might be a raffle drop down from one point or another. Um, I do know Zerko either played last season or the season before because I remember playing against him. I'm sure Juan Sanchez is an insane player if he is a raffle drop down, as they all seem to be. And like I said earlier, that you really can't go wrong with any of these players on this board, to be completely honest. And Zerko also, yeah, I do remember he was a really solid player. I think that's a really good pickup for Snowstorm to kind of fill out their roster there. And speaking of teams filling out rosters, so far the ones that do have full rosters, and I think you alluded to it earlier, they are looking kind of scary. And there's still, like I said, a lot of good players left on this draft board. I mean, we got Zay, if it's the Zay that I remember from a couple seasons ago, Louis, who's been around here, Louis Saka. There's a couple other people on here as well who Necropics all the way down there. Kodo is all the way down there. Like, I know they're steals for their MMR. So, getting towards the end of the second round and potentially into the few picks in the third round, it'll be really interesting to see who ends up getting spots on some teams here.
Definitely so, as the last two picks of the second round are going to fly off the board here as well. Again, teams wasted no time with their selections, as we got Starfy heading to the Samurai and TNK Knights heading to the Assassins. So that is going to round out round number two there. Mallow, what do you make of round number two? Maybe those last couple of selections and how the teams are looking right now.
Yeah, these teams are starting to stack up and complete here, and they're starting to look a little scary. Those last couple of picks, they're good picks. Juan Sanchez, I believe, a returning player. Zerko, I believe, also a returning player, and of course, Starfy. No introduction needed from that guy. He is a solid player going over to the Assassins there, and then TNK Knights, another staple. Here getting chosen, drafted here at the end of round two. So we got the Drakes that are now complete. That team is looking pretty good. Samurai honestly is looking really good too with Stites, Zaire, and Starfy. Then you have Hellcats that's looking pretty good. They still have one more pick to go, and they have almost a good bit of the draft board to work with here. Um, really, really, there's no team that doesn't stick out in a bad way. All of these teams look really good on paper here. So we'll see how things pan out the first couple of weeks and what kind of moves are going to get made. But I do like these teams so far, and of course, Sand's doing well with his Assassins round out there, getting the TNK Knights, as I mentioned, and yeah, all of these teams so far are looking really good here in Challenger.
Yeah, some solid teams, and well, we're gonna throw it over now to the third round here, which is actually gonna be the last round for Challenger, just because of how things worked out here. So last round for Challenger, Ascension on the clock. I'm gonna do a little bit of thinking here as we got to round out or at least get a third player's person on our roster. So bear with me. Maybe Amelia can take it away for a second while I do a little bit investigating.
Yeah, of course. I mean, like I said, you got two open roster spots, so pretty much everything is up in the air. You got what 50 or 31, 54 left, so you can pretty much come up with any single combo you want. So it looks like the choice is going to be yours here. I guess before a lot of names that are well known around, high or low, or even in the middle. Um, so realistically, I really don't think that you can go wrong with this pick. Personally, I'm interested to see who you're going to set up with Bowsy and Mo Bamba. Both of those players are more of a middle MMR for Chally. But like I think Speed said earlier, I know both of them don't play at a 1525 or 1526 MMR. They play like 1600s. So, I mean, you have a really good opportunity here to kind of fill out a starting three lineup if you so choose.
Yeah, and
And
I will actually fill out my lineup here. Gonna go ahead and select that Chirat42, who I've recognized before in the past. I've been hearing some good things. I'm leaning a little bit on my trusty AGM, the Chad here, suggesting a couple people, and I like that selection right there too. So we're gonna go ahead and bring him on board. I've seen him around as well, solid player. So I'm excited to see what we can do, and we still got some good room as well to grab another player off the board. So we're gonna have to see what the last pick will entail for us. But I think I'm liking what we got there.
yeah, Thatchy Rat 42 is a really good pickup there. I've also heard good things about Thatchy, so um, good pickup there. And with 1608, you basically have the entire board now. So yeah, you have a good setup there. You know, Hellcat's on the clock here, but there's a couple of names on here that I'm surprised is still on here. You know, you got Caliber, you have Messi, Panzer. Um, then you have Louis Saka, and then one surprising name for me that I totally forgot he's actually in Challenger this season is Polash. Polash was provisional the last time we had provisional. Then he was in novice. Then I think he took maybe a little sabbatical there, but he's back and he's in Challenger now. So just the man straight up skipped prospect and went straight to Challenger. Um, then we have Magix, uh, Wiggle, Kodo, Necroptic. There's a lot of good players still on this board. So I'm very interested to see who everyone picks up this last round here, because some teams like the Flame, they're still kind of wide open. Ascension's still wide open. The Wraiths, they can't choose anyone, which is unfortunate. But we also have Samurai, who also have basically everyone that they have on the board they can choose from because they have a cap room of 1622. Um, Bishops have 1524, so there's and then Hellcats have 1554. So there's still quite a number of picks that have almost the entire board, or at least half the board. So it's going to be very interesting to see who picks up what here. Speed.
Yeah, it's definitely interesting. I know who I'm leaning towards for my pick, but I still got a few picks to go. So I'm praying that no one snipes the player that I want. But there's a lot of great options, and like you were saying, some really good names on the board that haven't been picked, and it's kind of surprising here, but it's scary to see, like you said, both the Samurai and Ascension roster, knowing that they can literally get Hydro, a rival, drop down as their last player. So I'm curious to see, if he ends up going to one of those powerhouse teams already, or if they have someone else in mind. But it does look like the Hellcats, with just about 30 seconds left, have come up with their pick, and they are going to go with Dalton 98.
Hellcat's gonna make the selection there. Took their time, but you gotta respect the strategy here. Take your time, make the right selection, and they think they've got someone there, as that is going to be a good solid pickup for their roster. Don't know too much about them, but Hellcats, Cozy Boy, trying to make something happen down there. I believe that is their last pick. Yeah, that is their last pick of the draft right there. So rounding things out with that roster, Mealy, what do you make of that roster, and maybe how they might compare to the rest of the division at the moment?
Yeah, Cozy not wasting much cap space with only 7 left after that pick. Looks like Dalton, after a little bit of research, is a new player in the league. Just joined back in January, so this is his first season here. Could be one of those sleeper picks that nobody knows about, and at 1547 could put up some crazy numbers. Now, the real question that I'm going to be asking when I look at that team is how well does Dalton 98 pair up with Strato? I know Strato has incredible capabilities as a player, but I feel like when he is playing, if he has someone like to play side by side with, his skill level is just like there is no ceiling for Strato. So it'd be really interesting to see how that team actually ends up playing.
It will be interesting for sure, as the next pick is coming through, and this one dropping down quite some ways here, maybe to the surprise of some, but it's going to be Drips RL off the board there, heading to Dissolved, making their selection, and the Griffins cannot select next, unfortunately. So it'll be dissolved back to back, but another.
Salt can also not select as there's not enough room for
Ooh.
their fourth.
Oh wow, spicy things. The drama's ensuing. We're losing picks left and right out here. These teams are really
They are losing picks. A lot of teams, stacking it, and but there not being that many low MMR players and people kind of stacking it. We're now seeing our third roster that can't be completed.
Oof. Some GMs are taking a little bit of a risk right there with that one. But hey, they better hope everyone shows up. That's what I'll say about that. Or hope some more lower MR players fly through later on. So yeah, it's gonna skip both those picks and head on to the Raptors, who will make their final selection of the draft here, with the Visk, Flying Swan, and Pink Pony. 1542 remaining on the board for them. So we'll have to see what
I love that
see what they can
name.
do.
Powerful Pink Pony.
Yeah.
I think that's the greatest name change he's probably ever made.
Yeah. It's interesting for sure. I'm not always a fan of name changes, so I won't say too much. But hey, it's a solid name. If that was his actual name when he started, I think I'll be like, all right, you go there. But we got the Awuji there changing his name, and the Raptors are gonna come through and they're gonna select Sunline with their pick, and heading up to round out their roster with that last one right there.
Yeah, I'm gonna summarize the next or the couple of picks before. Dalton is actually from MLE. He's actually my league above where I am in MLE. He's actually my teammate, so very good player. They actually made the playoffs, so Cozy Boy definitely knows who he is from playing with and against him. So good pickup there for the Hellcats. Drips, I'm surprised actually fell this far down, but Dissolved got them a really good player in Drips there. Then we go to Sunline here, and the Raptors wrapping up their lineup with Sunline, as he would be the lowest MMR, and they still have 41 MMR to play with. So if something doesn't work out with that lineup, they will be able to go with a good number of players on the list should something not work out. So Raptors playing the safe route here, but chemistry is everything once you start getting to challenger and above. Really, it's important everywhere, but once you get to challenger and above, it starts to really become more important. And so MMR isn't as important because, like you mentioned before, speed with Bowser and I think it was Mobamba being 1526, but they play like 1600. So that's going to be the thing here is how well will they play together here. But good pickup there by the Raptors, and I believe the Flame are uh, on the clock, but I believe they have made their pickup.
Yeah, the pick is in for Flame. They're going to go ahead and select Caliber with their selection. And I'll have to come through and add something here, as I was also looking at Caliber for our pick. Me and Nightchat were going back to back, so a little bit of a snipe right before us there with that one. So I will say a very good selection, a very solid player, a good MMR pickup here, especially coming down to the last round right now. So uh, I'm not mad at them for that. I'm a little mad, but I'm not too mad at them for that.
That's the second one, right? That's the second time you've gotten sniped today, right?
I didn't actually get sniped on the first one. Some things changed
Oh, okay.
when I was doing a little bit of research, so that kind of switched on
you.
that switched on my first round pick. Some availability research for the player I was going to select. So yeah, unfortunately we had to switch that up, but this one was a snipe. We'll say that. Although we were kind of torn between two people, so hopefully the next one will stay on the board for us as Speed, Caliber going off to Flame, and then you're making your selection here for the Bishops. Going to go ahead and select Magix.
I am going to select Magix. He was a force to be reckoned with last year in the Prospect League. Obviously, they went 8-0, 18-0. Sorry, during the regular season, they had a very powerful run. And looking at what I had left for available players, he was, not a very clear choice, but I will say, I was looking at between him and another player, and he just kind of stuck out to me, knowing that he has the ice in his veins to be able to carry out a good run. Yes, it was 18-0. Yes, they ran into a very hot Ember team, but if they hadn't and Ember wasn't that hot, I have no doubt that he probably could have helped his team secure the whole undefeated season. So I think that's a great pickup for such a low MMR player in Chally.
Yeah, and he's definitely a solid third. Even in Chally, I think he's going to be a solid third player there. Because going with Shun and Bmar, that's actually going to be a really good lineup there. And having Goose in your pocket as well, I think that's a very good team there. And we'll see how they work together here in the first couple of weeks. Will Magic continue his winning streak in the regular season, or will he suffer his first loss in over a season? So definitely something to keep an eye out there for Bishops. But Rockerman, it looks like you have made your choice.
Yeah, he went with my boy.
With Speed's boy, we're going with Tricky with our last selection. I got word from Mr. Bowser. He said, I sent him the draft list and he said, get that Tricky guy. And I was like, all right, we're gonna get that guy. So I don't know too much about him, but I trust in the belief of Mr. Bowser. And yeah, we're gonna bring him onto the team there. And I think we got a pretty solid 4-man roster. Could switch things in between. So a lot different than maybe some of the other rosters in Challenge right now, which have a solid set 3-man. We have a little bit of who could start, and I like that, a little competition here, and we'll see who's going to end up being the starting 3.
That's going to be a tough deciding roster to decide there. That's Tricky's a Critter and I's teammate, and you are actually. So he's a great pickup. I like the dude. He's got great availability for game days, as he works Thursday, Friday, Saturday night. So come week time coming around, he's ready to grind. He's ready to put it out there on the line. I think that's going to be a scary lineup as well. All these rosters are looking really scary. I'm excited to see where everyone else is going to go. As it does look like Wiggle, the Wiggle man, is going to find himself on a home, and I wasn't sure if he was going to after this draft, knowing Rockerman, does he have 2 or 4 game suspension to start this season?
It is until the 22nd, which I believe is 4, if I recall correctly.
So I wasn't sure because of that suspension whether he was going to be able to find himself a home to start the season. That is, a difficult position when drafting to take on, but DJD willing to take that on and bring Wiggle on there. And, if you're willing to take that on, then that's definitely a great choice. And that was who I was considering between with my last pick.
Yeah, no, he's gonna go ahead and go for it, and hey, you may not have him for the first couple, but could have him later down the line. So DJ going to go ahead and select him. And then the second to last pick going to come, well, Necroptic is going to come off the board. Flame, another known Nemesis name. And then Samurai are going off the board, and they're going to select Mr. Hydro off the board there, very top of the MMR list. He hung around for a while, but he couldn't fall. He couldn't fall that far there, as he is gonna fly off the board there at the second to last pick, and gonna put on the four-time champions for the last pick of the draft here, Venom on the board to make their selection, and immediately a couple picks off the board, Necroptic, Hydro, so a couple more rosters that are completely rounded out now with the players.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that Necroptic pick. He was my teammate actually on Flame back in like season 9. Whereas him, myself, and shout out Freak Mighty as well. I don't know where he's been. We got to get him back in here one day. But yeah, no, he's a super nice guy, and he's a super easy player to play with. Very good role player, fills in well, with whatever other two players are on the field. I think it's a really solid fourth player option for them, and I think will fill in perfectly. If I remember right, actually, I can't remember. I was gonna say he may have also been on Flame for another season after that, but I can't remember. But regardless, Hydro, I'm just gonna come out and say it. I was terrified of Samurai last season. I am once again now terrified of Samurai again this season. That is an excellent pick for them. Hydro, Stites, and Zaire with Stallfire in their back pocket is going to do some serious damage this time. And way too early prediction. I would be surprised if they make it back to the finals. Just being honest.
If they do or don't?
If they do.
Oh, you don't think this is gonna?
I wouldn't be surprised if they make it to the finals again.
Oh, okay.
I think they're going to.
Okay. I was trying to work out what you're saying. All right. I didn't know if it was a roast or if it was a
his English was a little iffy there.
That's all right. I get it. We might see the Samurai in the finals, is what Mealy is saying.
And, they're way too early prediction.
Way too early.
He would be more surprised if they didn't.
Yes. Should have said it that way. My fault.
No, that's all right. We
double negatives. We
got the point across, I think. So at the end of the day, figured it out. And down goes the last pick here. Venom is going to go ahead and select Pixelated with their last selection. So that is going to round out the draft here. Pixelated heading to those four-time champions to close it out. So a solid showing. And I guess kind of as we like to do here, now that we're at the end, let's go around the room real quick and see who we liking thus far with the team wise here. Mallow, I'll throw it up to you first. Who are you looking at as maybe a team to beat here in the Challenger League this season?
Oh man, I'm looking at all of these teams here. I think Flame is going to be a good contender this season. Let's see, definitely I would say Orbit, Samurai for sure. There's actually a number of good teams here. There, like I mentioned before, there's none that really stick out in a bad way. So the only ones that I would say would stick out in a bad way would be these 3-person rosters because they don't have the fourth in their back pocket. But all of them still look really good here. So even these 3-man rosters. So hopefully the 3-man rosters don't have an issue playing their starting 3. I know you still have your sub ups and your FAs that you could work with, but yeah, looking at these, I don't see any bad ones. That's for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely some pretty solid ones. Speed, who are you looking at right now in the Challenger League as maybe the team to beat?
Yeah, I mean, even though they only have a 3-man roster, Mealy, your team, the Griffins, you guys are still going to compete, which is scary because you don't even have a fourth. A Samurai, Venom, obviously they were good last year. Venom bringing back, 2 of their core members, adding a scary player from the Samurai onto their roster, so they're going to be good. Samurai cooked this year. Obviously, they kept Stites. They're bringing down a Hydro from Rival, adding in Zaire, who I know well. I think that'll be a great team. The Drakes, I think, are going to be slept on a little bit with that Brother Bondo and Mattias combo. There's just a lot of good teams. I think my Bishops will be able to compete fairly well. Your Ascension team, Papayas, they may have a lot of cap space left, but knowing who's over there and making those decisions for them, they're definitely cooking on that aspect of things because they're going to build a team that they feel comfortable with, and they're not caring about the MR. So there's just a lot of great teams. Motion. I could sit here and say something about all of these teams. We don't have enough time for that as we still have 2 more drafts to get to. But just know that this Challenger League is going to be very, very spicy this season.
Yeah, it is looking spicy. Mealy, how about you? Who are you looking at right now in the Challenger League?
So I know I already mentioned him, but Samurai, there's nothing else I could really say on them based on all their players on there. Don't sleep on Zer as well at 1523. Does not play like it. That team literally has like 1600 level players as their starting 3, unless they decide to go with Softfi, who also with that is more of a mid 1500 level player in my opinion anyway. So that team is insane. Venom again. Just looking at their players, I mean, Kopente and Fort, they've played with each other a lot, so they got that connection. Yukio has been on that team for what feels like forever and is always a threat when he's on the pitch. I do want to kind of mention 2 teams though really quickly that I'm interested and I'm curious to see how they do. One of them being Papayas with their 139 cap space remaining. I mean, that's not always a bad thing. I mean, we've seen it multiple times, but I do know that Shadow typically drafts on people that he knows and other people don't know. That's what I've noticed so far as a interdivisional GM of his. So if Spaceman is like one of those guys that could make a huge difference, then honestly Papayas could be one of those teams to really pay attention to. And Orbit as well, considering Orbit had 3 second-round picks and not 1 first-round pick. I think DJD honestly did a really good job putting together that team.
Yeah, no, I really did like that DJD team right there. He actually had 2 people I was looking at on the board: Juan Sanchez, Ryan Gabb. I mean, Qual is also great as well. So some solid players, and one team that's not getting any love that I think is going to be a competitor. Motion out there with Stacked and Clouds. That is going to be a dynamic duo if they can connect well together. I mean, that team is going to give some teams a run for their money. And then JP or Ghost Bacon, I'm assuming to probably be JP, but I mean, either way, a solid third man as well with that dynamic duo. So you got to watch out. You got to watch out for Motion for sure, in my opinion. And yeah, I mean, there's a lot of great teams, for sure out there. So yeah, we'll have to see how it all turns out. But yeah, that is going to wrap it up here for Challenger League. Again, if you guys did not get drafted, like Mello kind of mentioned, you just stay active in the Discord. A lot of these teams are going to be making roster moves throughout the season. I feel like I need more statistics on the amount of roster moves made in a season so I could tell you guys the numbers. But there are a lot of roster moves that are made in the season. So just do your best to stay active in the Discord, on the Twitch stream. Just be active in the Discord and be open to looking for a team. So you'll definitely get a shot because there's a lot of people that didn't get drafted. We had a huge influx of players right after the format was released before the drafts. So I wish we could have got more of you guys to play, but I'm pretty sure
That's not suspicious, by the way.
yeah, what's going on here, guys? We're on to you. But yeah, it definitely have some time to get in as long as you're active, and teams will be looking for new players, so make sure you guys stay active. That is the one tip I can say. But yeah, with that being said, we are going to have to take a short little break, but when we come back here, we are going to have the Rival League draft coming your way. So make sure you guys stick around here. We'll get to the Rival League and then end it up with the Titan League. So you don't want to miss it. So stay tuned, and we will see you guys in a couple minutes.
others, they may be alone, they may be poverty-stricken, they may be in the midst of riches, but you can always be sure the angel of God is present wherever his children are.
Welcome back, everybody. We are one draft down, and we've got two more to go here as we're going to be heading into the Rival League draft. I'm back joined by the same fellas here back in the booth as we're going to be getting things going pretty quickly right into Rival League. Not going to waste much time here diving into this one, but I will throw it quickly to Mealy here for kind of an overview. But I mean, Mealy, their Rival League is looking stacked. We have got a lot of players out here.
Yeah, Rival League, if I remember right, when all the forms are coming in, was the first league to have a crazy amount of overflow with players, and they just kept coming. I mean, we look towards that like bottom third of the Rival draftee list, and there's probably 5 to 10 players, probably even more, honestly, who were in Chally last season. So there's a lot of Chally move ups. Coming in the back end of Rival, and just because they're on that bottom end, don't count them out. They're all great players. And with that said, with Rival going from 1611 to 1789, that's what 160, 170 something MMR from low to high. There's gonna be a lot of crazy teams this season. I will say, looking at the top end of Rival as well, it seems that we've got like 5 to 7 players that are in that higher bracket of Rival, and then it kind of evens out, and there's just a lot of players from like 1725 down to like, I don't know, 1685 or something. So it'll be interesting. I mean, there's a lot of talent out there.
Yeah, no, there definitely is a lot of talent. We're going to see a lot of it throughout the night. There's going to be a lot of people that are going to be vying to get on a team here. Unfortunately, there's going to be a few that won't make it on the teams, but that's what happens when you get so many people. Just a huge influx of players joining in. But we'll see how the night shakes out, and we've already got the first pick on the board coming through. It is going to be Kamikaze off the board there, formerly, I believe, on Galaxy, and I think he was a contender for MVP. And that is a solid selection. As Whiteout is going to go ahead and put him as the first one on the roster there, Mr. Kamikaze.
Yeah, it's a good pickup there. Getting last season's MVP candidate going here in the first round with Whiteout. You know, Dan's always got the plan, so he's definitely cooking up something over there. It's going to be very, very interesting to see what he does for his team, because they did start out with a clean slate here, and now we're here with the Grave Lords. They are in the same state. They have. I don't know why it shows 10 as their first pick here, but maybe it was a trade at the end that I didn't see. But anyway, Grave Lords, they're building their team here with let's see, with I think 3 first round ones. Is it still 3 first rounds, or did they trade away one of them? It looks like they may have traded away one of them, but their pick is in, and they choose Light.
We have Light gonna go off the board there. Second overall pick heading to the Grave Lords there, who are an empty roster at the moment. The Grave Lords, but gonna go ahead and select Light with their first overall pick. So these teams kind of had their minds set out here as the next one off the board. Thunderbirds with back-to-back selections. The first one coming through is gonna be Bullet off the board for Thunderbirds. So a couple of picks there. Light and Bullet going off the board, their speed, and these division rivals kind of starting their rosters. Obviously, Crip is the only one on Thunderbirds, but other than that, some 2 solid top 3 picks right there.
Yeah, I mean, very solid. Kamikaze, as already just talked about, great player. Light, been in the league for a while, great player. And Bullet, same thing. Bullet's one of those players that has greatly increased and gotten better over the last 2 3 Nemesis seasons, and now he's just under the Titan boundaries, and going to go play with Crip, as Crip did make his other selection too, and is going to pair him up with Unate. So another great roster right there. Bullet, Crip, Unate. I can see that working out very well. Bullet is a good friend of mine. And I think they'll have a great season, as long as they just do what they need to do, and any one of those can be the star player on that team so far.
Some solid pickups there. Recognize both those names. I think Unate was on Vortex maybe at one point, if my memory serves correctly. And then yeah, Bullet moving up 1770. That's some high MR, and that's what I like about the Rive League here. Like kind of like Mealy mentioned, is you're getting up these players, those high 1700s that in previous Nemesis seasons were Titan level players. I think that made Rive League really exciting last season, and I think it's going to make Rive League really exciting this season with that competition of high 1700 players all the way to mid to low 1600s. Like there's some good rosters that can be formed as some great competition with some great players here. As yeah, those two picks coming off the board, and yeah, Crip is pretty much got his starting three there. Made some maneuvers, but two picks in the first four. He kind of knew who he's setting up, and just had to wait for the shot, and he took it there, and he's got his team.
Yeah, he's got his team, and he left enough cap room to pick the bottom three right now, basically. But with the influx of rival, the question is, will we see like 5 more come in tomorrow, and he'll be okay? So,
That's true.
But but no, he does have a couple of picks there left, and all 3 of those that he does have left are good, solid forwards. So and even if Crip decides not to play, I don't know how if he plans to play the entire season. I personally, if I'm going to make those type of choices, I would definitely be planning to play, at 1683 and such. So, so those 3 that they have left, good pickups there, and it looks like Blaze have made their pick here with Evan.
Yeah, Blaze gonna go ahead and select Evan off the board. So starting out their roster there, obviously T-Man moving up to Titan there. Roster empty, trading away Kizvi from Blaze, and gonna go ahead and pick up 1726 Evan. I don't know if anyone knows anything about Evan, but appears to be new to Nemesis this season, looking to make his mark, and a top 5 selection right here.
Yeah, I don't particularly know anything about Evan. Could be maybe a different league. I mean, going this high up in the draft, someone has to know something about them on the Blaze side. So I would think someone knows something there. Speed, Mealy, do either of you know him?
I'm not familiar with Evan at all, but knowing T-Man and knowing T-Man being in a bunch of other leagues, I'm sure it's a teammate of his at one point in time. So
Oh, well, T-Man says in the chat, I don't even know Evan, but bro is gonna cook. So, hey, you know what?
shout out Evan.
Shout out
The
Evan.
T-Man plan. The T-Man plan.
The T-Man plan right there. He's cooking something up there for Blaze there. Him and Smooth the GM, T-Man the AGM there. They're working up something there. So hey, he's cooking, and respect to that. Sometimes you gotta find these people, throw a little dart there, and see what happens, as he's going to go off the board. And then the Pineapples going to come through, and they are going to select Squintle, another Nemesis player who's been around for quite some time, making his return. Now he's heading over to the Pineapples for their second pick to pair with Flip, who missing my boy Flip, but I saw him in the chat earlier there. Flip is going to get Squintle as his teammate, so a little bit of chemistry right there for those two.
I think that's a scary duo right there. Flip, Squintle. We both know what they can do. They've done it season after season after season within Nemesis. So you pair those two together, that's a great start. And they're both, Flip sitting right there about in the middle of the MMR boundary, and Squintle's not too much higher ahead of them. So that's leaving them plenty of room for their last 2 players as well, which is going to be scary to see who they are going to, end up pairing up. And then that's probably going to be one of those rosters where the starting lineup could be very easily interchangeable.
Yeah, no, definitely. We'll see how they end up working their last 2 picks. Like they got 2 second rounders, 17 and 23 to work with. So we'll see what they can do as now the Chimeras are on the clock. So we'll let Mealy do a little bit of thinking right now as he's got his 7th overall pick. Try to figure out what he's going to do with Mr. B Tree here, who they are going to select. But yeah, again, there's a lot of we can't really go through all these names, but there are a lot of great names on the board. I think kind of like what we saw in the last draft, you're not going to really run out of good names to select out here. So we're gonna see if he's gonna go high. I mean, Beatree 1647, kind of in that bottom third area or that third MMR range at least. So we'll see. We'll see if he can go to the top. I mean, there's some great players up there that are very high MMR wise, and he is gonna go ahead and select. Looks like Demas for his pick, who we've seen as well. Looks like he's Dem on the sheets, but that is Demas, right, Mealy?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay. What are you liking about Mr. Demas there?
So I've had a couple opportunities to play with Demas, and I know that Demas is a really good player. Also a season 11 All-Star as well. Just want to throw that out there. To my knowledge, a very mechanical player in my opinion. I think can be a really good player. Kind of a middle ground MMR in Rival this season, but I think plays at that higher 1700 level.
Yeah, no, I like that selection right there. We saw him, I think, most notably on Lightspeed a couple seasons ago there, and yeah, he's a solid pickup for sure. So I like that selection. Getting a known name, known quantity out there to the Chimeras. A good selection, 1706. So pretty solid right there. And then speed is coming through.
Gotta go with another known name, baby.
A season one OG and former
Season
management
1
member.
OG in Magma, aka now goes by Troy. Pairing them up with the Juicy Leaf. I think those two are going to be very, very, very scary. We know Magma, obviously, Troy, Magma, whatever you want to call him by, has proved himself over every single season that he's been here and playing. So you really can't go wrong with that pick, in my opinion.
I love that. I love to see my boy Magma. I'm gonna still call him Magma. I know he changed his name to Troy on there, but Magma, Nemesis veteran, Nemesis legend right there from all the way back in season 1. Still around and kicking here in season 12, and a top 8 pick right there. So love to see that there, and I think you got yourself a good one. And I also love Juicy Leaf. He was one of my teams formerly in a
First
rival.
season he joined, you snagged him up. Yes, you did.
I had to. He's great. So I'm really loving that. Loving those two. That's a great combo right there for sure. So I like what you're constructing over there, Speed. Not too shabby. As the Knights are going to come through as well and making their selection. And this is another known name and another very great player, former MVP of the Challenger League, who just kind of ran through the Challenger League a couple seasons ago. It's Zimity going off the board to the Knights, which is another great selection in my opinion.
I love that selection. I remember Zimity, and no one could touch him that season in Chally. It was night and day difference between Zimity and the rest of the Chally field, honestly, that season. And he's continuing to climb, he's continuing to get better, and Foam on the lower end of things, and getting Zimity there at 1717, that's definitely a great pickup there.
Good one there, and the Gravelords are coming through right after, and they're gonna select Sifri. If I'm pronouncing that right, Sifri, going off the board to the Gravelords for the next pick. And then Vortex, they were wasting no time. It seems like LK, he's got his mind made up here, as they went right after that and selected TJZ or T-Jazz off the board for the next one. So back to back picks made out there in the first round. So these GMs just wasting no time making their selections here.
Yeah, absolutely. No time wasted at all. It's almost like they have a plan here. And TJZ, not too familiar with them. They've been around in the league a while, I believe. So that's the thing with Rival and Titan for me, is that the players become a little less familiar for me, but there are some names that definitely stick out here. But LK picking up TJZ, trying to bring or bring some success, I should say, to Vortex like he's done with some other leagues. And I mean, he has done it with Vortex, so don't get me wrong there. But he wants to continue that success, and we'll see what he does. Right now, looking good. He doesn't have another pick until round 3, so. But he does have 1623 to work with. So he has a couple of picks or a couple of players, but not too many. But he should be okay to pick up someone. We'll see how it pans out for him for round 3 for him. But it looks like we are getting more picks coming off the board here, Rockerman.
Yeah, we are getting a couple more picks off the board here, and we're gonna need an at check on this one. We'll get an at check from the mods here. But yeah, TJZ going off the board and Lightspeed going ahead and selecting Aura with their pick. And 1721, Mr. Aura pairing with Jtron and Boy Wonder. And you mentioned TJZ on that Vortex squad. TJZ and LK teaming up with Kisby, who they made a trade for, and solid roster right there. And Lightspeed getting their third as well. I like Boy Wonder, a great player there. Don't know too much about Aura, but Jtron very solid as well. So they've got a little 3-man right there with 1779 remaining.
Yeah, at 1779, you basically have the entire draft board there, and it's there's a lot of good players on the board. There's going to be a lot of good players left on the board at the end here. I know you touched on that, Rocker Man. And I'll say this early here, just like we talked about in the Challenger draft. Don't get discouraged if you don't get picked, because you will get an opportunity at some point during the season. Just because of the amount of players, I think teams will be less stingy to keep their roster if there are any issues, because there are so many great players out there. Apparently 1717 and 1723 are magic numbers this season, because there were 4 1717s and 3 1723s. So just crazy to see how many MMRs are so close together here, looking at the top 10 to 15. And then when you add the top 20 here, that's even more so. So so far the picks looking good here. Definitely see no bad choices here. The lineups starting to show up for some of these teams. Some of them already have at least their starting 3, or at least their top 3 potentially. I know Distortion may go with something else as a starter here, but we'll see what they decide to do. I believe right now we do have Blaze on the clock. While I guess we did find Xerox in the actual Discord, but Speed, what do you make of the picks so far?
Yeah, I think they're really good. I mean, I've heard some stories that Xerox pick there for Distortion. Um, they had tried him out, scrimmed against some potential, other rival teams, as that's what rivals like to do, to try to decide how they want to build teams. And they played so well that one of the other teams decided that they didn't want to go in that direction anymore with that team. So that Distortion pickup with Flame and Sprinkle, I think, apparently is going to be pretty insane, even though he's 1649. But yeah, I think the Aura pickup there with Jtron and Boy Wonder. Jtron coming up from Chally. Boy Wonder, who's been in Rival for a while, has made his runs with Galaxy and stuff. But he's always usually played with Kaysen or his brother, Ventus. So I'm curious to see on, how things are going to boil over for him, not playing with, his chemistry that he's used to.
Yeah, that will be interesting. I was looking at that as well, and yeah, you mentioned Distortion kind of filling things in there. Flame and Sprinkle with that selection. So Xerox, we'll see how they do there, and then Blaze. They worked hard to get a couple picks here in the first round. They have 3 with their empty roster, and this is the second of those 3. They're going to go ahead and select Mayo, and not the Mayo we're used to knowing and loving. our beautiful mod Mayo, but different Mayo, new to the league here, looking to make a name for themselves here on Blaze. So another player who is new, but 1717, pretty high up on the MMR list right there to select.
Evan, the one we didn't know about, just said in chat that Mayo is his boy.
Oh, okay. All right.
So Blaze might be cooking with some new people that no one knows here. We don't know.
Yeah, that's what can happen sometimes. Really, I feel like that's always the interest of the draft here, or the intrigue, if you will, is there's some players that are gonna be their first season. They may already have performed well in other places, or it could be their first league, and they get a good opportunity to kind of show Nemesis what they're up to.
Yeah, that's sometimes my favorite draft strategy at times. You have one player that you talk to and you're like, hey, what kind of players are you interested in? And then they say, hey, there's this guy that literally just joined the league this season. No one knows who it is, but he's my guy, like full trust. I love giving those players, all that trust and letting them cook. If Evan's right, which I'm sure he is, that team, that duo at least so far, is probably going to go insane.
Yeah, we're gonna have to see. I love the confidence, and for their sake, hopefully it all works out well, and we'll see if it does, as they have found their third player there with Desire at 1746, and that's given them just enough cap room remaining to select their fourth player, 1613, and oh boys, we might be getting in another fight over the lowest MMR players here, like we saw in Challenger in the last draft. If things are panning out like they did.
Yeah, the good news is though, Blaze doesn't have to wait until round 3 for that one. They have the end of round 2, so they don't have to go through as much. But you have teams like Whiteout who will be coming up here in the second round with multiple picks. There's Hydra with multiple picks in round 2 here, and Blaze is actually in between those two picks. So it's going to be interesting to see what type of selection that they do here. And of course, right now we do have Hydra on the clock here at the end of round 1, and I believe they are making their pick here shortly, and they actually do, and they select Dr. Brown.
Dr. Brown going off the board there, and see if we can. We need an at check on that one right there. But yeah, they are gonna find Dr. Brown off of the board there, and that's gonna end up the first round. So as we wait for an at check on that one, what do you guys make here of the first round now that things are kind of concluded? Speed, I'll throw it to you before we head into round 2. What are you liking out of round 1 here, as things panned out?
For the most part, for the returning Nemesis players, everything kind of seems expected. Who we're seeing being drafted here in the first round. Obviously, there's a couple surprises. But obviously there's only a limited number of spots, so not everyone is ever going to get a first round draft pick. But it looks pretty good. And then, by the sounds of it, even some of the players that we're not used to being called, a couple from Blaze there. I'm not familiar with Dr. Brown at all either. I don't know if that's a name change or if they're new to the league.
It is. We just found out they're Hayden Speed, formerly known as Hayden, who was on motion at one point. I know.
Yep. So that is a returning player. They got up in the higher ranks and they decided to change their name to give everyone a little confusion. Sometimes I might understand that. I believe Hayden was in Chally for a few seasons, so maybe a name change after people, they see you climb up and you don't want to be associated with, this player was stuck in Chally for a while or whatever. I can kind of understand that, but name changes kind of hard to confuse us. I feel like we should put Dr. Brown, aka used to be Hayden, in his name until we can get used to it, right?
Yeah.
But that's a solid pickup then if that's Hayden. And it really doesn't surprise me with how things have shaken out so far.
Yeah, I mean, first round is looking very, very spicy here, as we will transition over to round number 2 here, as we're gonna put the Pineapples on the clock for their selection here, and we'll see what they can cook out here heading into round number 2 with that first pick. But yeah, a lot of solid players, and again, I mean, rival league. This is kind of the craziest influx. I think in my 12 seasons of Nemesis here, this is probably the craziest influx of players in one specific league that I've ever seen, from format to draft. I've never seen this many players join the league in that span of time. So, I mean, there are some people that are hungry, and I mean, there must have been some recruiting going down here, because these players were, yeah, they were going hard, and we got a lot of them in here. So a lot of great selections, and a lot of great ones still on the board here, as the pick is going to come through. And this one, once again, some
Ooh.
some more Nemesis veterans off the board. Pineapple is going to go ahead and select Marco with their selection, taking him off the board for their third. So Squintle, Flip, and Marco.
Oh, that's a scary team, to be honest. Uh, all three of those players together is going to be a force to be reckoned with. We'll see how it pans out though, because I don't know how much those guys have played. I know Speed, you talked about how sometimes they'll do scrims against other rival teams to see how they do, and don't know if they were one of the ones that they scrimmed together with, but that is a very good lineup right there with the pineapples, and very interested to see how that works out. My guess would be that maybe they didn't play together there, and it's just something that Dr. Shadow here is cooking up. They have the Pineapples have 1639 left, so they have a more of a choice to go with their fourth than some other teams like the Thunderbirds and Gravelords and Blaze, but. Uh, Pineapple's doing good there with their first pick in the second round, and now we have the second pick in the second round coming through, and the Gravelords, they select Luma.
Luma off the board. I know he was on the Assassins at one point, I believe, on Papayas at some point as well. So definitely another player we've seen around here, moving up to the rival league. I heard some good things about them while they were in Challenger League. So respect to them for moving up and getting their pick in, and then the Bearcats going right behind and selecting Somber with their pick. So the picks are coming in. These teams are once again ready to lock and load, and even Foam now, he's going to go ahead and select Afterburner with his pick as well. So rapid fire once again. When it gets to round two, I feel like we just get rapid fire here, because these teams have been waiting and waiting and getting ready to send their picks in. So back to back to back picks off the board there, and gonna line up some good top of the second round picks.
Yeah, they got their picks, their first pick lined up in the first round, if they did have a first round pick, and that really, got their team set into place to ensure, no sniping of players here. But I feel like sniping of players don't happen as often uh, in Rival and in Titan. I could be wrong, but I don't know if that happens too often. B, do you have any insight on that? Do you get sniped at all in Rival?
Honestly, Rivals probably been the one league other than last year in the reset, um, that sniping doesn't happen as much as other leagues. As a lot of times players know who they want to play with. It may not necessarily be, um, a bring your own team league, but rival players and GMs with their rival teams, normally teams bring back at least someone on their rival team, and they're always discussing, they're always building teams, they're always scrimming together beforehand, trying to figure out what works, what doesn't work. And it kind of usually, for the most part, smoothly comes together, for at least their core three, right? You might get picked, you might get sniped when it comes to your fourth pick, because you don't necessarily have a preference. You have a couple guys in mind, based off of the cap space that you have left, that you said, hey, I wouldn't mind having this person, and you get three or four of them. So if one of them gets sniped, you go, all right, well, I also like this guy, so it's all right. But generally, you guys are always fighting over those same players, so you kind of interchangeable those last guys when it comes to rivals. So rival, I usually don't have any issues with being sniped.
I got you. Yeah, and I was talking about the Grave Lord's cap space. That was because Luma had already came in with the pick, and I didn't see it refresh on my screen. So they do have 16, 17 left with their pick. But with the others here coming in, Knights, they have 17, 11. So they have a lot more to work with than some of the other teams, as well as Lightspeed. Lightspeed has 1779. So they basically have the entire field here. Could have repeated that from earlier, but looking at the who is it? The Knights here, yeah, 1711, and then Somber with the Bearcats. Bearcats, they still got 2 picks left, so they still got a good amount of room to work with. Somber going with Kaysen. I don't necessarily know Somber, but Kaysen is definitely a good, solid player there. So I think the Bearcats are going down a good path. We'll see what they decide to work with here at the end there. But Rockerman, I know Melia is over here cooking, and he just, I believe, made his pick.
Yeah, Mealy gonna come through and select Rio, or otherwise known as Oyer. He's going backwards with the name, but Rio, he's been around Nemesis quite some time as well. Gonna come through with that pick merely.
Whoa,
It
whoa.
was gonna happen once. It was gonna happen once.
I'm finally not the only one.
My bad, my bad. I love my boy Merely, so shout out to him. But Mealy, what are you looking at in that pick there with Rio?
The last I knew, Rio and Demas have played together or meshed together relatively well. So that's kind of what I'm hoping there with that pick. Also apologize for taking an extremely long amount of time. I just know we pick again in 3 picks, and I'm just trying to get maximum amount of time to figure this out as possible. So yeah, no, we're hopefully cooking. It should be okay. I'm confident in these guys. I know all of them, and I know they're absolute dogs. So I'm honestly excited so far.
Yeah, no, I like that. I like that selection. A well-known name for sure, and a solid player for sure. So we'll see how that works out with chemistry wise. But I like that selection there with Demas, Rio, Beatree. Sounds like a good squad of veterans right there. And then I'm also loving this pick here from Speed. And maybe I'm a Speed homer right now on this draft here because
I love it.
because I love this one too. Another former Arrival member. Maybe that's why I love it so much. But Doodle off the board, Speed, another great selection of a good veteran.
Yeah, great veteran. Juicy Leaf at this point, I think you can consider him a veteran. I think this is his 4th season. So I'm just getting the veterans together. They're always proving themselves throughout the leagues every season. Doodle, I remember at Worlds, was grinding Rocket League. Instead of watching Worlds, he was out there at all the stations grinding Rocket League. At one point, he said he had played up to like 23 games during RLCS inside the stadium. And that's, not only to play those games, but you have to wait in line. You're waiting in line almost 15, 20 minutes each time, if not longer. So the man was grinding. He's always grinding, and I just love that pick.
Yeah, no, that's a great, Doodle, cool guy for sure, and yeah, a grinder most definitely, and yeah, that's a good, like I mentioned, good veteran squad right there for the Kings. I like that. Hopefully they can pair together well and work together effectively, and yeah, we'll see what they can do for sure. As the next pick comes in as well, Game Buster off the board, 1639. And Dr. Shadow, he was using every single bit of that cap room, 0 cap room remaining right there for Mr. Shadow, as he's got his 4th and final player. So Squintle, Marco, Flip, and Game Buster off the board there for the Pineapples. So they are all done. But unknown name, but he's going to find himself on a roster there filling up the space. And yeah, I'm sure he'll get some opportunities as well there as the Pineapples are complete. And Emily is also going to make his last selection. Going to go ahead and select Milky, who I also really like this pick as well, Milky. Milky, another former Nemesis veteran.
Yeah, I just did a little bit of research and saw Milky's been here before. Also, with my consulting, my other, rival players as well. They said he's a good pickup, so obviously I'm trusting them. I have my source says that his peak or pretty much where he's at MMR wise is because of 3v3. And like I said before, I love my 3v3 guys. We play a threes league, and if you're 17, mid 1700s and threes, I respect that. I want you on my team. So with that said, I'm loving so far what Milky has to offer, and I'm honestly I'm guaranteeing that he kind of meshes well with Rio and Dinas.
Yeah. No, I
I
like
think
that.
that's a good point though, Mealy, is a lot of the peaks that we do see in the league sometimes do tend to be in twos, and the gameplay doesn't always translate into threes for certain people. So seeing someone as a 1726 in threes definitely brings your draft value up when you are that in threes. So a very interesting team that the Chimeras have there. But right now, I think Whiteout have 2 picks in a row here, which I'm interested to see what happens with these 2 picks, because they have pretty much only one person on the roster right now with Kamikaze. So Rockerman, what names, I guess, so far, because there's so many, I know you could probably go for like 5 minutes on this, but what names so far are you actually surprised on the list? I don't want to give too much away for you since you got a pick coming up, but you can always use that to throw people off as well.
Yeah, no, there are some great names, and yeah, you mentioned it. I mean, we're seeing Paper, Elite, Rilo's up there. I don't know too much about the top players, but I mean, there's still some high 1780s up there. Dream Mix, Wolfie, Cantaloupe Lover at the very top. I don't know if I mentioned Pulse is on there, Saucy, Reprise. I recognize Sense. I mean, there's a lot of great names down the list there. Any one of them could really be an opportunity here for Dan, and he is. I mean, this one is honestly surprising because this guy fell, and this is a very surprising person to fall this far down. It's going to be Moifin, a Nemesis veteran, former Titan League player, down into the rival league. I mean, that is an absolute, honestly, a steal at this point right here, because that is just great value to get him middle of the second round here for Moifin. I'm very surprised that a well-known Nemesis player who was in Titan League falls that far down. So I love that pick, and there's still, you mentioned they still got their back-to-back picks, so we'll see what the Dan plan has up for back-to-back number 2 here. But yeah, I mean that's a great pick, Moifin, Kamikaze. I mean two really good players. You can't say anything bad about either of those two.
Yeah, super surprising. When I saw that come through, I was like, "Wait, what? He was still on the board? No
Yeah,
way!" I
yeah.
was I was legit surprised there. So, yeah, good steal there by Dan for Whiteout getting Moif in there to pair up with Kamikaze, and that duo alone is looking very scary. So I'm very interested to see who he picks as his third. If he goes with his fourth, or if he goes ahead and picks his starting three, which looking at what he picked, it looks like he picked his starting three, and he picks Paper.
Paper off the board. One of the names I mentioned there as someone to watch out for. Yeah, I'm not surprised by that in the slightest there that he's gonna fly off the board, and surprising maybe he fell this far down, but sometimes that's just how the team strategies work out here. So love that one right there. Moifin, Paper, Kamikaze. I mean, just looking at that one on the board there, that looks like a scary team, to say the least. So respect to Dan for making it work there, and sometimes you find those players. You get to that point in the draft, and you get two great players sitting back to back. So love that for I love that for Dan right there.
Yeah, absolutely. And um, let's see, who do we got up now? We have a rival. So Rockerman's making his pick. Um, Mealy, who do you see on the board? I don't know. Let's see. How many more picks do you have? You don't have any more picks. So who do you see on the board here that surprises you?
So there's a couple of names that I know have been around for a while that are kind of surprising to me. Obviously, I had that short stint in Rival, so I don't really have too much knowledge in terms of Rival League. But just based off of names alone, let's see. I know Rival's been around for a while. I know that he's a really good player. Pulse has been around for at least a couple of seasons. I know, and he's been a really good player. Mirrorly's down there at 1663, and I know he's been working his butt off, and also was a champion last season, very good player. I know Anthony down there, 1652 from another league, and he's a really good player, more on the mechanical side. And then, like I said, towards the bottom, but I wouldn't even like consider it the bottom because they're just as good as those up in the high 1600 level. Shout out Winter, even Eggy D, Galaxies. I know is actually pretty good. Quake, like honestly, there's so many good names out there. I genuinely don't think that like any pick further in this draft is going to be a bad pick.
Yeah, no, that's I agree with you. I mean, like we said, this rivalry draft is absolutely stacked right now. I mean, there's so many great players. It's gonna be tough to get them all on teams here. So, but you really can't go wrong. And a couple more picks are gonna find their way through. And a rival, we were actually on the clock there. Gonna go ahead and select Maddie for our third right there. Last season, Lush, Chad, and Maddie, when those three were paired together, they were dangerous. I was so happy to get Lush and Chad back this season. Just ecstatic, really. And then Maddie, he was the third man. We kind of picked him up midway through the season. Unfortunately, he couldn't finish the end of the season with us. But I think if he had, we would have definitely been competing for that championship. So I'm happy that he's able to come back here. And I'm excited to have him back on the roster there, and it gives us a lot of room to work with too. For the last one, but Maddie, he's a great player, definitely a great third, and the Lucian Chad duo, they're scary. They're scary for other people, in my opinion. Maybe I'm a little biased, but I think they're scary for sure. I think they proved that last season. I think they'll prove it again. So we'll see what they can do. And then Bearcats also going to go ahead and select Panda, who we've seen before in the past. I recognize it playing against him in Challenger League, moving up now to Rival and to the Bearcats.
Yep.
Yeah, nice.
Panda, good combo there with Kaysen. They're always hanging out together in Kaysen's personal server. They know each other well. They play well with each other. So that'll be a good combination there for them. I don't know much about Somber, but at 1723, he's got to be, fairly good, and still leaves him with being able to draft anyone they want to left on that board. So it wouldn't be surprised me if that's a home maybe where Rilo ends up going, as he's still available on that board.
Yeah, he is. And next couple picks gonna fly off as well, as the Gravelord's gonna go ahead and select Daniel Ricow with their pick, and then Hydra going down towards the bottom there. I believe he was one of the lowest MMRs remaining, but I mean, for that kind of value there, Quake off the board there, a great player last season, one of the best in Challenger last season, playing against him, All-Star last season, and he's gonna go off the board there immediately to Hydra as to make their selection.
Yeah, like I said before, I know he's like lower in the MMR in terms of rival, but he definitely does not play like it. Like I remember last season, Quake, very mechanical and very sound player, a lot better than a 1611 in my opinion. So I think Hydra got an absolute steal with Quake, and honestly, I think he'll fit in with Sanzo perfectly, and I'm sure Dr. Brown as well.
Yeah, as the next pick is going to come in, and I think there was a little bit of gamesmanship here with this pick by taking Quake right before this selection, giving Blaze only one option to choose from. So solidifying their fourth right there with Hydra, and then Blaze are gonna take Remy's gang with their pick. A little bit of an unknown, but they're gonna take him off the board there. So yeah, definitely a little bit of gamesmanship right there to get the sub, knowing that Blaze needed a sub, and gonna find a very solid one. And then Remy's gang, who knows? They could be great as well. We have no idea with some of these people. At least I don't. Maybe you guys might. But yeah, they are gonna fly off the board. And then the last pick is also in for the draft. Hydra is gonna go ahead and select Oshi with their selection here. So the round number 2 is complete here as all the picks are in. So I guess Speed, I'll throw it back to you here. What do you make now of round number 2 here with teams really starting to fill up at this point and round themselves out?
Yeah, I'm liking how all these teams are looking, just like I projected, just like how all the drafts have gone really way so far. I think all the teams are really filling out and looking pretty good. I think the best team out there looking is the Mafiosos. I can't beat a team that's not there. So Sands, I think he has the new draft strat. He's had a lot of different draft strats between trying to get every fourth in a league before and everything else, and I think this might be his best one. I don't know, but no, for Sands, this has got to be a little scary. Um, Seeing all these teams have 3 players on them or 4, and then there's you. But on the other side of things, there's still we've talked about it many times. Rival had so much influx of players that there's still so many choices left that he doesn't need to worry.
Yeah, I mean, this might be the best season, Speed, to kind of settle back in the rival league draft and see what comes to you with all the players that influxed into the league. So definitely not a terrible strategy. So we'll see what he can do as we're just gonna transition on over and speak of the devil. There he is, Sandsbar. Not really the devil, but he's right there. Figure of speech as he's up there. Mafioso's now on the clock, gonna make their selection. Their first selection, as Speed alluded to, first selection of the draft here, the only team empty, and it's starting in round number 3 here. So Sandsbar, he's been waiting, lurking, and he's ready to make a move here. So we'll see what he decides to come up with. I mean, he always does find something. He always finds something. He's one of those GMs that's been around for a long time. That he just finds a way to find these people, and he makes some fun teams. That's for sure.
Yeah, yeah, and you know, looking at the draft board here and who's left, Lightspeed, or sorry, Thunderbirds, who is next, actually won't have a pick because there are no 16-15s and below here.
Hmm.
So Thunderbirds will have a 3-man roster here to start the season with, which you think about it, it's kind of crazy with all of the FAs we have available here. So, but it can also be a good thing should one of those 3 not be available to play. Basically means they can probably do um, just about anyone that's on the board there as a free agent sub. Or they could go down a league and sub up. But Mafioso's finally getting their first team member on the board here, and they select Sense.
Yes, Sense off the board, and that's another veteran right there of Nemesis here. Been around for quite some time here, and surprised to see him drop all the way to round 3. But I guess like we mentioned, if there was a league where we're gonna see some great players drop, it's the rival league with all these great players hanging around here. So him falling down a little surprising, but he's gonna find his way here onto the Mafiosos. The first pick off the board for them. So we'll see what else Sands can do. Used some decent MMR, 1678, finding a known quantity and bringing him home. So yeah, respect to that pick. I like the Sense selection right there to start off round 3.
Great
Yeah,
pick. I
and
didn't realize how good Sense was until somehow Sense and I were recently in another league, put into the same league, mind you. Prospect player with a very well-known rival player. Um, Actually, 2 of them, Kisvi was his teammate. So those 2 and me ended up in the same league and ended up playing them in the grand finals, and it wasn't even close. We took game 1 when they weren't quite warmed up, and then they turned on the afterburners. So hats off to them, Sense and Kisvi, very, very good players, and you really can't go wrong with that at 1678 for Sands to start off his rival team.
Yeah, solid.
yeah, and Yeah, for sure, and very solid. I will say, looking at the other teams though, real quick, the one that sticks out the most to me, because it's just super satisfying, is the Pineapples. They have zero cap room left. Like when you get that magic number of zero in your cap room, for some reason it's just chef's kiss for me. I don't know why. Blaze would have had it, but they had their pick sniped. And then the Grave Lord's pretty close to it, cutting it at 6. So, but everyone else, I think, is actually, other than the Thunderbirds, I think everyone else is actually going to have a full roster here, Rocker Man.
Yeah, it looks like everything should work out here, as the next pick is going to come through here. And I love this selection. That's one of my boys right there, Mr. Murley, off the board there. I mentioned his name earlier. It's not Mealy, it's Murley. He's off the board on this one. Going to Lightspeed. And
I don't like that pick.
I'm a little jealous because I would have loved to have Murley. But yeah, they did have a lot of cap room remaining. Speed 1779, but going down to grab Merely off the board 1663.
I mean, yeah, I don't like that pick for one thing only. He was next up on my draft board.
Couple picks away.
Couple picks away. So not quite fully snipe, but we'll call it a mini snipe, right? I mean, you can't go wrong with Mealy. He's, again, one of those OGs. Did just win a chip down in Challenger last season. So he has what it takes. He knows what the grind is to get a championship. But a little surprising that Lightspeed decided to not use up more of their MMR cap, as they now have 116 remaining. They literally could have gone with anyone on the board. So not that Merely's not a bad player, but kind of a little surprising that they didn't try to go with a higher MMR player.
Yeah, I'll agree. I'll agree with you on that front. I was surprised to see him go off the board to Lightspeed. I was not surprised to see him go off the board at all, but I was surprised to see him go to Lightspeed with their cap room remaining. I really thought they were going to go high, but I mean, merely he's a great player, so I'm curious to see. I mean, you got Boy Wonder, Jatron, Aura, and merely. I mean, there's a lot of known names on there, and if Aura can be a very very solid player, I mean, they could do some things for sure. So. We'll see about that one, as Sandsbar is coming through. Well, we missed one pick. Nervebot going to Distortion. He's going to round out their roster. So Nerve and Xerox about the same MMR, but Nervebot heading to Distortion. And then Mafioso's going to go ahead and perform another snipe here on the board. They're going to select Reprise, who we were taking a look at for our last pick here, but Sandsbar and the Mafiosos gonna pick up Mr. Reprise, heading to them.
Yeah, that's a good pick, and I'm still surprised to see a couple of these players still on the board here. But I mean, at this rate, the chances of certain people getting picked are probably a lot lower than they were in the first two rounds, because there's the MMR cap room that some teams are able to play with. They're not as high as some of the others have, like Mafioso, since they have two more picks left, which one of them is technically, I think both of them are technically in the fourth round. But looking at this, yeah, there's like with Vortex really only has one choice right now. The question is, does someone snipe them with a little bit of gamesmanship or not?
We'll have to see. There's always snipes, and Mallow is trying to say there wasn't snipes in the rivalry, but we've seen a couple now at this point. As Reprise going off the board, and the Knights coming through. Gonna go ahead and select Spooky. There's two Spookies. Sorry, other Spooky for getting pinged, but I think this is the right one. There we go. Spooky off the board there for that one. So yeah, the Knights working to round out their roster there, or at least close to it, with that selection. And yeah, the Knights looking to make some things happen. I know Foam, he's always got something cooking over there. That was the last pick for them. So Spooky off the board, and it's going to put Speed and the Kings up on the clock to make their selection. Mealy, what do you make out of the last couple picks here now that Kings are on the clock?
I've been liking the last couple of picks. One thing I actually just noticed, and I'm actually flabbergasted by this, and it's that Foam is the lowest MMR player on his team, and I find that insane because in my eyes, Foam's always at least a mid 1700, high 1700 level player. I know he's an absolutely insane player. So to see him on the quote unquote bottom of his team makes me kind of worried about that Knights team. They could be absolutely insane. But yeah, going back through the last couple of picks, I think they've been relatively good. I'm not too familiar with either Reprise or Spooky, but I'm sure that they are going to do absolute work for the teams that they were signed to.
Yeah, definitely so. There as another pick off the board. We'll throw it to speed. The OGs are coming back home. We got Blazin off the board, another Nemesis, long time Nemesis veteran. I think
Who
he was
needs
in
a
I think he was
seventh
in season
re-sign
one.
when you can just get him back in the draft?
There you go.
I mean, who needs a seventh re-sign? I mean, come on. I got the OGs all on one team. I think I cooked just for that reason and that reason alone. But no, I love Blazing. You know, came up from the Chally League, was on my Bishops team last year with Jtron. They both moved up to rival this season. Um, you know, unfortunately, Jtron did want to head to the draft, ended up making a deal to send him out pre-draft to a destination that he was happy with. Blazing was, you know, right on the cusp of me wanting to re-sign him, but I did have to give that option to Shun first if he wanted to re-sign, who was my sixth decision. So I did have to end up letting Blazing go. But he's back. I got him back in the draft. I'm happy with that. You know, Juicy is happy. I think they'll pair well with Juicy, Troy, and Doodle on that roster for sure.
Yeah, I love that. I love that there for Blazing, and I like the team of OGs out there. So maybe got a little bit of rooting interest. When they're not playing my teams, maybe I'll root a little bit for the Kings out there for some success this season. Loving that there. And Whiteout is now coming through here with their last selection, and they may have built a Thanos level threat here with a 4-man roster as they select Elite off the board. Elite, Paper, Kamikaze, and Moifin, and that sounds like an absolutely diabolical 4-man roster out there for Dan with 0 cap remaining as well, by the way.
Oh yes.
And Valor really likes the
Chef's kiss.
I love the no cap
Great job,
remaining.
Dan.
Yeah, I love that.
Honestly, I'm going to say the same thing I said as with Foam, and seeing Moifin on the quote unquote bottom of that roster terrifies me.
Yeah,
That is insane. That is insane. Oh man.
yeah, that is a crazy move, but Elite a great player as well, and you love to see that selection come through, and respect. I mean that Dan didn't have too many high picks. He had some seconds, and here in the third, so he worked out with what he had, and I think he worked out a banging roster for sure right there, as he is gonna fill out his roster, and Vortex is also gonna make their selection here, filling out their roster with Colo Beer. 16-18 looking like the sub position. Gonna get them through on that one, and then it's gonna put me and my rival boys on the clock for our final pick of the night.
Yeah, Rockerman here has 1694 to deal with, so that's quite a number of picks here. Good bottom half of the board here, but we say bottom half just like Mealy says here. Even at 1694, that's very, very good for rival. At this point, like I said before, it's all about who you have left with the cap room you have left, because you're going to see some players not get picked just for that purpose right there. I know Rockerman probably had someone in mind there, and I believe he did. Who did he pick, Mealy?
For when? Right now?
Yeah.
Right now, I just made the selection.
Okay, he just did. I was gonna say I haven't seen it come across yet. I love that pick though. Actually, he just reached out to me in my TMs earlier about the draft,
yo.
and he was like, he did one. Yeah, he didn't realize that the draft was occurring. I guess tomorrow, because I think he reached out yesterday, and I was like, yeah, no, you're good. You still got time to sign up so long as you have enough games. But Cynical was actually on one of my rosters my first season as GM, and honestly, I love the guy. Super good pick in my opinion.
Like, love that. Love to hear that. That's some great that's some great things to hear as yeah, no, at iChad, he was very confident in the Cynical pick here. For sure. And when he saw he was still hanging around and we had the room to pick him up, we're gonna go ahead and snatch him there. 2 cap room remaining for us. So using the most out of it right there. And yeah, like you said, it looks like a very solid player. I'm excited to see how he can do. I mean, you can't go wrong when you get a high 1600 peak MMR player here in the end of the 3rd round. So I'm very happy with that selection. I hope he can do good things. You know, with this 4-man roster, Lucian, Chad, Cynical, Maddie. I mean that I'm loving my rival boys. I'm hoping they can really compete hard for a championship this season, like last season. So I'm excited. I'm excited for sure.
Yeah, you had a chance. You had a potential chance to. Actually, I don't think you did because there was no 1694, so that's okay.
There was a
but
reprise was 1694. It would have been 0, but he got sniped.
yeah. Well, I mean at that time, but yeah. No, that's a good pick up there, and Arrival definitely looking really good this season here early on. I fully suspect they're going to go deep into the playoffs, as Rockerman predicted there. We do have a pick coming in, but I think we got to do a check here real quick on who it is. But it is a good pick. Oh yeah, definitely a good pick. They just had their name shortened
No,
because
that's
this is
not them. Ad check failed by
That was a bad ad check.
failing me,
bad ad check from Crippus
failing
there.
me. Oh man,
They are selecting Ken though. Once we figure out who Ken is in
Yeah.
the Discord, it's hard to find those short names like that when there's so many different Kens that have been here. So, looks like we may have found him. Here we go. All right, now we found him here with this one. So we've got Kenny. I will not lose in his name there. So we'll see what he can do with Bearcats. Gonna go ahead and pick him up there with their selection. And don't know too much about them. Looks like they appear to be new, but they're gonna round out their roster, going up 17-25 with their last selection, able to round things out up there for them. And then Galaxy is coming through, and they are gonna select Anthony with their pick here, their last pick, 1652, using up a good bit of that cap room as well. So gonna round out things for round number 3 right there as the last picks are off the board. Mealy, I'll throw it to you before we head into the 4th and final round. Only a couple picks here in the rivalry draft left. What do you make of the round number 3 and how the teams are looking thus far?
Round number 3, I feel like was kind of interesting. We saw a lot of names that we were used to seeing, and we saw a couple names that we've never seen before. Believe it or not, I love that Kenny pick. I don't know who he is, but the fact that he says that he is not going to lose, I love that confidence in a player. So I love that pick personally. And Galaxy picking up Anthony there at the end. I know I gave him a shout out before. I have him on one of my teams in another league, and I've never had any problems with the guy. I think he's a really nice guy. I think he's a great player to round out that Galaxy roster, and I hope that he's able to provide to DJD, what he needs for that team.
Yeah, it's the DJD. He got the 3 re-signs going there with ACX Spuff and himself. Picking up Anthony there late in the 3rd round. Not too shabby for sure, as we're going to be headed into the last round actually, and taking a little bit more of a look at things. We've only got 2 picks to be made in the last round.
I'm gonna guess they're both the mafiosos.
Yep, Sandbar finds a way here for the mafiosos to have the last 2 picks, and he's pretty much the only one that can round out his roster. So It's all down to Sandsbar and what he is going to cook up here. Already has Reprise and Sense on his roster, so he's still got 34-30 remaining
Come on,
here.
Rilo.
The chat's been
Rilo's
begging.
one of the high names. Chat's been begging. And I agree with him. I think Rilo has a good case to be drafted, and it
I don't
doesn't
think it's
look
gonna
like
happen.
he's gonna go there. He's gonna go with Wolfie. It's not his Wolfie, as we all know. The Wolfie that he's really close with is in the prospect league. However, he is gonna get a Wolfie on his org. Maybe it's someone he knows, maybe it's not, but you know. It still leaves him with 1654 left, so he's still got a few players left to decide between here.
Yeah, so we'll see what he ends up doing here, the very last pickup here on this one. So we'll throw him on the clock and see if he can come up with some magic here. And yeah, as we wait for Sandsbar last pick, just a reminder, for all the rival league draftees, like I said, we had a huge influx. So unfortunately, not everyone could be drafted. I mean, like I said, this is the craziest influx of players to a certain league that I've ever seen. From the format release to the draft, I've never seen this many players join the league. So I appreciate all the interest, and hopefully we can find the rest of you guys a good home here soon. As always, just remember to stay active. That's the big thing you can do. Just stay active in Discord, in the Twitch. Teams are going to change around. There's going to be people that are going to go non-playing. Their schedules aren't going to work out. Chemistry is not going to be there. They're going to look for someone new. So stay active. Be on the lookout for pings. For any recruitment, and be active in the chat, because that's how people can find players. When they need to make a change, is look who's active and try to pick them up. So that's what I can say for the rest of you. And now we wait for Mr. Sandsbar to see what his last selection is gonna be here, as he's got.
He could be here all night. You don't have him on a timer, Rocker,
I know. I realize that he's on the timer now.
That is a Sands move. You know that. I'm not on a timer. I can take as much time as I want. Now you put him on a timer, and look, he's already typing.
There you go. I love that there. So we'll see what he can do. And he is going to go ahead and select not Alex here with his selection. And we'll have to see. I mean, this guy's not Alex, but there are a lot of Alexes in the Discord, so we're gonna need an @ check on that one. But he's gonna go ahead and select not Alex, using up a good bit of MMR to make that last selection.
I believe his name is just Alex.
There's a couple.
And his ad is like Roasty Toasty or something.
Oh, maybe Speed's got the @ check for us here. It's like Crypt may have found one for us. Oh, Rusty Tusty. All right, there you go. You got it. So
yeah, there it is.
Looks like he was the top one on the selection, so he's going to go off the board with the final selection. So draft is complete there. That's the very last pick. So we'll go around real quick here. Mallow, I'll start with you here. What do you make of the rivalry draft? Who's the team to look out for you?
Oh man, a lot of these teams, so many good players in the free agent pool too. It's hard to really showcase one team here, because there are a lot of good teams. Pineapples, Whiteout, they stick out to me. I would say that a rival also stick out to me. The Bearcats do, not because they're my org or anything, but they also are looking pretty good there. Having Kaysen as the bottom player in that list, just like we see Moifin with Whiteout, it feels kind of wrong. Seeing Kaysen down there at the bottom, knowing how good he is. So Kaysen and Ken, hopefully no mix-ups with the names on stream there, should they get a streamed game, if they choose that time. But Mafiosos, I think having the last picks, I don't think did Sandsbar any issues as far as finding players, because like we said, there's a lot of them out there. So really, I don't see any bad picks out of here. The only one that sticks out to me is Thunderbirds, just because they don't have a fourth person on the roster. And will that hurt? we will see later on. But other than that, all the teams, including Thunderbirds, they look all good.
Yeah, very solid for sure. Speed, who are you looking at right here in the rival league heading into season 12?
You know, you may look at him in a negative way, but I know Bullet. Unate was an option we were looking at throughout the off season. I think Thunderbirds, they'll find a way. They'll be competitive. You're a rival team, obviously. You got the two-headed monster, Lucian and Thai Chad back at it again. Pineapples, we stated them. Whiteout. I think the sleeper team here, though, because no one knows any of them really, is this Blaze roster, right? Um, Fairly new players. They all seem confident in each other, seem to know each other. At least Evan and Mayo do. So that's always where you may look at the team and go, "Oh, well, we don't know any of them." Well, you got to look at it as we don't know any of them. Like they could be the best players in the league, um, and no one will know. So I think that's going to definitely be a scary roster. And obviously, I got to shout out my own Kings, all the OGs on one roster here. So, but really, looking around, like Mao said, you can't really put a finger on any one of these teams and be like, I'm not sure if they're going to be able to compete this season.
Yeah, no, it's a lot of new faces in new places here for this upcoming season 12, and some great teams. Mealy, how about you? Anyone you're looking at specifically that's maybe an underdog or maybe a powerhouse coming through?
So before this draft even started, I was thinking to myself actually that Arrival has a chance to come up with an insane roster. And I think you actually did pretty darn good, Rocker Man. Like I said before, I like that Cynical pick. And if Cynical is your third player with Thigh Chad and Lucian, that is, in my opinion, an insane like trio right there. And having Maddie as well. So I think you absolutely cooked with your rival team this season. I'm not gonna lie. Um, Other than that, Vortex, I think it looks pretty good this season as well. Obviously, LK is always a really smart GM and he drafts very well. Whiteout, I think we mentioned multiple times. That is an insane roster. I have faith and I love my Chimeras roster so far. I think that we're going to do pretty good. So, kind of just like we were saying in Chally, like there's a lot of competition out here, and I think it's going to create a very, very fun and interesting summer season.
Oh yeah, summer season is always exciting, and I appreciate the props on that. I'll give the more of the props to Dai Chid. He did the research for who he wanted to get on his roster, so I'll give the credit up to him. But I am very happy with how it turned out. I do agree with the people that he wanted, and that's what we went with. So I'm hoping they can provide some great content and some good wins for the org here, trying to get back on top for a rival here. So yeah, I'm excited to see how they turn out. And yeah, like you guys mentioned, there's a lot of great teams. So we're gonna have to see. I'm curious to see how the Knights are gonna do. Like you mentioned, with Foam being the lowest MR player, that's always spicy. And Galaxy with all the resigns that they made, I'm also curious to see how they turn out as well. Just a couple of teams that we didn't really touch too much on. And then I'm very curious to see what happens with Lightspeed with all that cap room remaining. I like the players that they have. I'm just curious. You never know with all the cap room. Usually you try to use it up as much as you can. But hey, you never know what can happen. You get good players; they can be sleepers with their MMRs. So we will have to see for sure. But with that being said, we are almost done for the night. We've got one final draft. Going to be a little bit of a shorter draft for the last one. It is Titan League, the top of the top, the best of the best in Titan League. Titan League has gone crazy. 2100 max MMR for that high MMR bound there to cap them off. So we got some insane players that are going to be on the board. Some really, really great people coming up here. So what we're going to do, folks, is we are going to take a short little break. But when we come back here in a couple minutes, we're going to have the Titan League draft. So make sure you guys stick around, and we'll see you guys in a few.
Left me in this mess, I'm falling. Never know. Can't find a reason why. Couldn't get any closer. Can't find a reason why. Couldn't get any closer. Can't find a reason why. We couldn't get any closer. We couldn't get any closer. We couldn't get any closer.
Alrighty, welcome back, everybody. We are here for the last and final draft of the night here as we're heading to the Titan League, where we got the big boys out here for the last and final draft here. As things are they're about to get real. They're about to get real here with the Titan League. It's a crazy Titan League. Speed. This was a crazy increase for Titan League this season, with the top going up to 2100 for that top MMR value. So we got players that are, I mean, just out of all of our reach right here.
Yeah, 4, 5. There's 3 FAs and there's 2 currently rostered. Yeah, so there's 5 players whose peak is over 2100. So we had to drop them down to 2100 just to make cap space and everything, work easier. That's crazy. That's they potentially could be anywhere from like 650 MMR to 700 MMR higher than my peak.
They're pretty
If
good.
that tells you anything.
Yeah.
They're pretty good. Yeah. They're the best of the best. They're always put on a show when they're on the stream. So I'm really excited to see how these teams shake out.
Oh yeah, it's gonna be very exciting to see the Titan League here. And before we get things going here, I got to give a couple shout outs. Shout out to Merely Mental coming back for 60 months. That's 5 years. So happy birthday, Merely! 5 year anniversary on the resub. That is a long time. Much love, much appreciated. And also shout out to JP. He gifted all those subs, and he just decided he wanted to give one to himself, coming back for 25 months. So much love to JP. A lot of support tonight. So thank you very much here for all the support. And I guess without any further ado here, let's go ahead and put these teams on the clock, starting with Inferno with this first overall pick here. We're gonna have to see what they're thinking about Mealy, as they have Pizza and T-Man on the roster, and they've had some time to think about this number one pick.
Oh, I am excited to see this pick. Pizza was actually one of my players the first season I was a GM for the Pantheon when we still had the Krakens with a full Titan League. He was one of my players, and I instantly fell in love with this guy. He has an incredible work ethic and just loves to be here, and he's a great vibe all around. And the season after, or I guess I should say last season, I was really excited to see him go to, I think even Gonza eventually drafted him or something late or something. But yeah, no, now he's on Inferno, and I'm just glad to see he's sticking around, and he has grown to be an insane player, even more than he was before. So I'm excited to see what him and T-Man can come up with for a potential third player. And no matter who they pick, I feel like Inferno is going to be at least a top 4 team. That's a way too early prediction, but oh my god, yeah,
That's
take it away.
It's a pretty good pick right there.
Yeah.
That's a pretty good pick. Yeah.
As Rocky Ayers is going to be the number one overall pick for the season 12 Titan League draft. And I mean, that guy's pretty good. He's pretty good. He's been around the block a little bit, champion, runner up, all star. I mean, Titan League. I mean, that's a great pick there, Speed.
It really is. He's been in the league for a while. I've always enjoyed watching him play. He's one of my favorite Titan players. I think one I can easily say is more of my favorite is Kratos. I've really enjoyed watching Kratos grind and grow. Watching him move up from the ranks. But probably one of my second best players to watch when he's on stream.
Yeah, Rocky Years is a great one. I like the Kratos shout out. I'm glad he resigned. I also got another two-headed monster who we'll talk a little bit more about later on. But yeah, Rocky Years, a very great first overall pick, and another great second overall pick is JP going off the board to the Godfathers, and the Godfathers trying to make some more waves. And Mealy, this is one of these teams, the Sloth Syndicate, still looking for that first championship. The Godfathers have come close a couple times, and I think Sandsbar making some trades has really been trying to, move up and, make something happen and have this be the team that's going to take the championship, and JP is going to be heading that way.
Yeah, correct me if I'm wrong, but I want to say it was you and I who actually casted that match last season. It could have been someone else, but I thought it was you and myself. And we were just talking about that the entire series, how, Godfathers have come just short on a couple different occasions, I think, or something. And it looked like they had the team to do it. And if I remember right, that series was kind of crazy when they ended up getting knocked out there. But yeah, I mean, I feel like Godfathers always has a really good team. Sans does a great job drafting his Titan teams. I think, he puts a lot of trust in Logan, if I remember right, that he's one of like his go-to guys. And then picking up JP early here, I think it could be exactly what they need for this season.
Yeah, and that's going to be JP, Logan, and Chef. Chef, otherwise known as Zen, who's been around in the Titan League and Nemesis for quite some time. So yeah, that's still a great roster when you get, a returning player or a couple of returning players who have been in the championship before, who have done the work, and you get them here. It's obviously a great pairing for sure right there, and that's a great trio that they are going to have. And yeah, and them and Inferno getting that 3-man roster sorted out. I think Nebula also has a 3-man roster who we'll talk a little bit more about them later. But yeah, Pizza, Rocky Years, T-Man, and now Venganza on the board here. They are going all the way up to the top, and they are going to go ahead and select Lakes with their selection, who I am also trying to find. There he is. We found Lakes with a 4 going to be selected. And Mallow, that was one of the people that we were looking at top MMR player off of the board there. One of those big 2100s off the list.
Yeah, I'm not surprised to see them go early on here because that's what you want to do is get that powerhouse on your team to begin with, and that's exactly what was done here. Look, get your powerhouse in early because Titan, it's a different beast. They kind of know who they're already going to play with. I think these picks are going to go by very quickly. Um, there is no bad pick for the most part when it comes to Titan picks. You're going to get a solid fourth. You're going to get your starting three, and that chemistry. While it's important, overall, the Titan players just mainly play the same people or same group throughout their time that they play here or elsewhere. But getting that 2100 first is definitely key.
Yeah, definitely. So as that one, he's gonna fly off the board. I'm very excited to see what they do. I believe they are new to Nemesis this season, so we'll see. But Venganza, they won things last season there in Titan and had to make some maneuvers. They traded away Brandon over to Nebula, so that's gonna be interesting to see what happens with Nebula. I love Brandon as a player, and it's gonna be interesting to see what happens with them over there. And Lake's gonna try to be the new top of the barrel guy for that Venganza squad, who they just find a way somehow. So we, no matter what happens, I don't think we can count out LK and Venganza in that team there. So Lake's the first pickup there, and then Pyros is gonna come in off the list here for the Spartans, and Speed. They're also going to use up all their MMR there, or well, not use up all their MMR, but they're going to go to the max, take that 2100 off the board on their open roster, and slam them in there.
Yeah, I love that Pyros pick too. Pyros is a very, very, very good player. Obviously, over 2100 peak. Great starting point there for foaming the Spartans. Um, and excited what he's able to do. That he's got a little bit to go for his second pick. Um, whereas Venganza picks in like 3 or 4 more picks. So it definitely would have liked to see, Foam try to trade up a little higher, knowing that a lot of these teams already started with 2 players and then had early picks going on to get their thirds. But looking at this board right now, as you're on the board, we'll start talking about you and the Pinnacle, talking about your 2-headed monster. That's almost like a 3-headed monster because you got Kratos. Your other 2-headed monster is monsters, so that's like two monsters in one, I believe. If I'm doing my math right, Mealy, you can correct me here in a minute, but I believe that's considered a 3-headed monster when one of your players' name is Monster.
Yeah, I was gonna say he mentioned it at the beginning. He was like a two-headed monster, and I'm like, I mean, you literally have like the monster. I just can't go wrong here. But yeah, I'm kind of interested to see who you decide to go with as well. And I don't know. Kratos and monster together is already like extremely damaging. So depending on who you pick for your third, which again we're talking about Titan, so realistically any one of these guys will for sure fit perfectly anyway. But with that said, it looks like you have made your selection. If you want to announce it.
Yeah, our selection is going to be Wolf here coming off the board. Kratos and Monster both really like this guy here. So I'm excited to have him. He's got Anthony Edwards in his profile picture, throwing down a dunk. So I love that. He was on my NBA fantasy team this season. So, shout out to Anthony Edwards and shout out to Wolf there, bringing him on the board. They really like him. 1931 MMR. Obviously, Kratos and Monster take up a lot of that MMR room, but 1931. And when you get a 1931 as your third, in Titan League with how things have been in the past, I'm ecstatic to have him there. Gives us enough room to grab one of those last couple players on the list. So yeah, I think everything worked out perfectly. I'm glad he felt us at 5, and like you mentioned, Kratos and Monster. That's a great duo, just like I had in the rival league. So I'm hoping Wolf can be that great third man to them, and I think they can do some great things for the upcoming season. So I'm excited. I'm loving what I'm seeing right now.
Yeah, I think that's crazy. Like you stated, your third is a 1931. That's your third highest MMR, and we're talking at 1931. That used to be some teams' top MMR, a couple seasons ago. So that's really crazy. And I'm really excited to see here is the Godfathers. Godfathers are now on the clock.
Inferno's on
No,
the clock.
sorry, Inferno's on the clock. So either way, my statement's going to be the same here for the next two picks. Is both of these teams are now drafting for their fourth to round out their whole squad. Inferno, they have a little more cap space left going with 1996. Godfather's having 1827 left to pick here, and it does look like the Inferno pick is in. And they're going to go with someone that I'm not familiar with. I don't know if any of you guys are, but they're going to go with Juju here at 1951.
Yeah, nothing for me on Juju, but like we mentioned, 1951. I believe they're new to Nemesis this season, so again, 1951 is not anything to scoff at here. So, like we said, when you get these people that are high 1900s like this, like I said, it's hard to really go wrong when you can get someone like that on their team, and you know that's going to be end up being their third. It looks like T-Man will probably fall in that sub role, but I mean, I think T-Man is more than capable if they decide to have him play as a starter. I think T-Man's more than capable of filling in as a third man in the Titan League. We saw how he did in Rival League last season, and we'll see. I hope Juju's great for their team. But if not, I think they got a good solid T-Man to throw in there. You can't really go wrong. So, but yeah, 1951, using up that cap room. You got to use it up, especially in Titan League. I feel like the cap room is so important to use in Titan League. So they went up and used a good bit of it there to finish out their roster with their fourth and final pick.
Yeah, definitely. They could have gone up a little higher, not too much higher because there is a pretty big gap between 1965 and 2007. So they at max they would have still had 30 MMR left on their cap space. But when you're talking about 30 MMR at this high, uh, it, it's not that much. 30 MMR at this rank, you think you win 9 games at a time, 9 MMR per win, right? But when you're talking 2K players, that's it's literally nothing. It's the size of an atom, um, in the scale of things. So. It's definitely interesting, for sure, and it's gonna make for some crazy Titan stream games. I hope we definitely get a lot of them this season. I know Titan schedules are usually a little different, and they don't necessarily aim for stream times just because they generally can play earlier in the day, just from what we've seen in past times. But I'm definitely excited to see some of these games up on stream.
Yeah, I mean the Titan League just provided us so much content whenever they were on stream last season. I mean these players were just going crazy, and it was a joy to watch for sure last season. And like I said, with these teams, I'm sure it's going to be a lot of fun this season as the Godfathers going through. They are making their last pick after having some resigns. They're going to go ahead and select Zenith at 1815 with their selection. So rounding out their roster, a good sub pickup. I don't know if this Zenith has been in Nemesis before, but I'm pretty sure they have been because I recognize the name. And usually, I guess if they're in Titan and they have a similar name, they're more than likely they're probably who we think they are. So they've been around for a bit as well. So a solid pickup for sure to grab as that fourth MMR player. But again, you know I think especially with how Titan League is looking this season, I think a lot of these players could kind of fill in at any point. With Titan being the minimum being almost 1800. I mean, like you kind of mentioned, speed. It's the MMR. It means a lot when you get up to here, but I think it means a little bit more less, or a little less than it does maybe in some other ranks because these players, these are peak mechanics at this point. These people perfected mechanics, perfected rotations. All it comes down to is execution really, and that's the difference between being some of these really high MR players and some of these middle of the pack MR players. They're all really good. So Zenith, we'll see how they can perform out there as the sub. And Venganza is coming through, and they are going to go ahead and select Spoody with their selection, 2016 off the board for them. But going and heading over there to the defending champions and LK with 2 of his picks there in the first round, gonna make some magic happen and close that out immediately with a Spoody pickup. So Lakes and Spoody on that roster as it closes out round number 1 there.
Yeah, I really like that Spoody pick. To my knowledge, Spoody's been around as well for quite a while now. And I'm just kind of looking around and looking at some of these teams that are starting out, and I can't help but like noticing how competitive this Titan League is going to be. Like I'm looking and like there is a scenario where you can get pretty much 3 2K players on one team, and to me that is absolutely insane. But yeah, like our Titan League this season with the players that we have, and it seems like there's so many who, you know, we had a good amount that were 2K plus, and there's a lot of players who are like that 1950 and then going up to 2K and even low 1900s. Like half of Titan is going to be 1900 plus, and I just can't fathom that amount of skill. So hopefully I get the chance to cast some of these matches, and you know, if they are in stream slots, because it is going to be some absolutely insane matchups.
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, we can't talk about it enough about how good these players really are and how much of a difference it's been since the beginning of Titan League. I mean, way back when it was just barely 1700 plus in Titan League, and now we're, you know, like 1800 plus with, you know, cap at 2100. I mean, back in the day we're capping. I think we capped at like 1950 back in the day, and now we're capping at 2100 for the top of the top. So again, it just shows the growth of things, and you know how crazy these players have gotten, and how crazy Nemesis has grown here, and you know, evolved over time as Blizzard is on the clock, and they're always cooking up something over there, as they had Tox resign, and they're going to go ahead and select Isak with their pick. So another one of those high MR players. Again, you know, it's a 2100 on the board. You really can't say no to whoever is left there for Blizzard. They're starting off the second round. They are going to go ahead and select Isak, and then Dragons are coming through. They have their selection as well. They are going to go ahead and select Oscar with their selection as well, going a little bit down the board, I believe, with Oscar, but gonna pick him up there and gonna give us a 3-man there for Dragons, who re-signed Bluey and Vulcan, who are also 2 really well-known and very good players in Nemesis.
Yeah, and I want to start off with this Blizzard pick, right? So you get Isak's, you know, 2100 plus player, pairing him up with Tox, who, mind you, is only 9 into Titan. Tox
Crazy.
going to be the bottom player on his roster, more than likely. Is crazy. Tox has been in the league forever. He had, you know, he's had multiple chips here with Blizzard already. He's only going to be a 1799. Rockerman, where is this Titan Council at? Where Tox is
Bring it
only
back.
1799. Okay, that's just blowing my mind as I'm looking at that. And then to go over to this Dragons pick, I don't know anything about Oscar. I don't know if that's a name change, or if they're new into the league. But Vulcan, Bluey, again, Nemesis veterans, they're always competitive. They always find a way to, you know, be at the end of the season in the conversation of, oh, the Dragons may win the chip, right?
Mhm.
And they brought him back, and you know, I love to see that, you know, these GMs, yourself included, that have Titan teams, you know, spending 2 of their resigns on the Titan, on their Titan team to keep, you know, their core together, and then, you know, seeing how they can run it back next season with picking up, you know, their different third and fourth options.
Yeah, no, there were a good bit of resigns, and you know, that's a strategy. We talked about it in yesterday's draft, and you kind of brought it up earlier, Speed, with the new limit on the amount of resigns in each season. You know, each GM only has 6 resigns to spread out through their entire org, so it was a lot more strategy to try to figure out who to resign. You know, do you spend it all in one league? Do you try to split it up a little bit? And it was really a strategy. And I think for me, how it ended up working, at least for this season, I don't know if it's going to work that way for future seasons, but I ended up with a couple of 2-man duos in 3 of my 4 leagues. Kratos and Monster, Lucian and Nightshad, and then me and Sweeney. So that's how it ended up working for me. But there were a lot of teams that just ended up keeping 3, 4 players on their roster. So I mean, really, it was a big strategy decision to figure out where to utilize these resigns in the best capacity.
Yeah, I like what we did with the re-signs this season, and like you said, it brought up some very interesting strategies so far. I'm not sure. I can't remember actually from the beginning of this Titan draft. What did the like pre-draft board look like for teams? Were there a good amount of re-signs for Titan, or
I think it was split a little bit. I think it was anywhere from a couple twos, a couple ones, a couple zeros. I think that's how it looked.
interesting? Yeah, Titan's one of those leagues where if I had a team, I would probably go first priority in keeping 2 guys, especially if I know that they love playing together with each other and they already have some good chemistry. I would not let them go at all. And I think like we see that with, like I said, with Dragons, with Bluey and Vulcan, if I remember right, they play together a lot. And that's pretty much an inseparable duo. And you did it with Kratos and Monster. It's another good duo there. So it's like if you have the 2 players at the very beginning to kind of build off of, especially in a Titan league, you're setting yourself up for some pretty good success, in my opinion.
Yeah, definitely. So as Venganza weighted down a little bit towards the end, but they're going to go ahead and select Prev with theirs at 1950, leaving with 1799, enough room to get someone else at the bottom there, and then Spartan's going to come through with Magic on their roster. Mallow, I don't know if you have anything to add here about this one, but another 2000 MMR player flying off the board there to the Spartans.
Yeah, the Spartans getting a 2000 in Magic right now is kind of insane to think about in the second round. Heck, even the first pick in the second round with Isak going at 2100 it is mind blowing in itself. But Magic going to the Spartans here, we talked about it before. There's so many really good players here, and they kind of play as a group or duo. Like you mentioned with all of your re-signs. With Pinnacle, their 2 re-signs with Kratos and Monster. There's probably some newer players here that have played with some of these other Titan folk who were in other leagues and brought them over, and now they're able to play with them here in Nemesis.
Yeah, and again, another great pick off the board there. I don't know too much about Magic, but heading over to Pyros there, another 2K MR player. Again, these are the type of players you want to see on the pitch. When you get 2K MR players, you want to see them out there. You want to see them competing. Pyros 2100, Magic 2007. So that is some high MMR. I can't wait to see that duo if that ends up being something special out there for the Spartans. Foam has got his ideas for sure, and then Pinnacle, we're going to come through and we're going to select Ventus onto the roster here. He's the lowest MMR in all of Titan League, but I think he's a solid 4th man. He fits in our MMR here for sure, and I think he could definitely compete if we need him to in there as a 3rd man. I think he's a great player, great person. I love talking with Ventus, longtime Nemesis member. So I'm happy he gets to come over to my org here. He fell over to us here at pick number, what we are at 13, I believe. So again, happy to have him. I hope he's excited to join, and hopefully we can work hard and get a chip home, and bring it back to Winnacle here. We'll see what we can do here for season 12. But yeah, he is there, and then Blizzard coming through, and they're gonna go ahead and select Poopy with their next selection off the board. So almost rounding out around number 2 here.
Yeah, and the picks, looking at these first 2 rounds here, definitely no question marks or surprises here as far as who was picked or where they went, because so far all of them are looking pretty good. Inferno with Pizza and Rocky Airs, that's going to be a good duo there. That I think is going to be pretty scary. But I mean, you also got Kratos and Monster, who were also pretty scary last season as well. Blizzard, they just made their pick with Poofy here, another 2,000 plus player going late in this second round, and the Blizzard's looking pretty good too, and they got one more left over, and they can pretty much pick almost anyone on the board. But looking at this, and then the Godfathers, yeah, Godfathers, that team is looking pretty good too. So that's the good thing about the small the number of teams we have this season. You know, we could have if that influx of players, if they signed up just a little bit sooner, we probably would have been able to squeeze out like 4 more Titan teams, which I think would have been even more competitive than what this is, just because you have more teams and more players out on the pitch. But even with these 8, it's going to be super competitive, and I can't wait to watch.
Yeah, it will be exciting as the last couple picks going to come off the board here. Blizzard going to go ahead and select Poofy, and then Nebula going to select Saint there, rounding out their roster. And that is a very spicy roster as well, which we didn't get to talk too much about them yet, making their first selection here at the end of the second round. But they made a big trade in the offseason for an MVP, just a high quality player there. Brandon, 2100, defending champion there, moving over to Nebula, pairing him with Zinvez, Denzi, and Masaint. And I think I've had 3 of those 4 on Pinnacle at one point there. So definitely some great players for Nebula. And Mealy, I'll throw it to you real quick as we're going to transition into rounds 3 and 4 here to round things out. What do you make of that Nebula selection and how the rest of things are looking at the moment?
Yeah, I hate to give him props for it, but DJD knows what he's doing. He's been a GM long enough. He knows exactly what he's doing. Acquiring Brandon obviously was probably step number 1 in his plan. Obviously a Titan like well-known player for seasons upon seasons now. Definitely always like one of the best players. Paired up with Zinvez, Denzi, and Masain. That is going to be, I think, one of the teams to look out for sure. And kind of like what Mal was saying too, like I wish we could have had at the very least like 12 Titan teams just to add more competition, and not only more competition, but like also more games to be able to watch and potentially have on stream as well. Because the way that these teams are shaping up so far, I wish they could all just be streamed.
That's true. That's true. I'm sure we'll get a lot of Titan stream games, and especially when we stream all the postseason matches, we're gonna see these teams duking it out. That is for sure here as we're kicking into round 3, and like we mentioned in previous drafts, only a couple more picks remaining because we had some re-signs on a lot of these teams. So picks coming in, we've only got well, I guess 3 more after this next pick just came in. It is gonna be Shiru going over to Blizzard, and then Prism is heading over to the Dragons at 1950. So looking like they're third here for that one.
Yeah, and the picks are just flying off right now too. But I mean, also, most teams already know what they're going to do or have already completed their lineup here. So, Speed, I was going to pass it off to you there too. What do you make of the team so far? I know we don't have very many picks left, which good for us because it's been a long evening. Been talking about a lot of good teams, throughout Challenger and Rival, and Titans no different. There's a lot of good teams there too, right?
Yeah, there's it's been a long night. It's been a long 2 nights, especially for Rockerman and I and you having to cast all these drafts right now. Rockerman and I having to draft while casting. There's a lot going on in the brain, so not that I'm trying to get the night over with, but I am excited that we are coming to an end. For sure, and that also means that the season's officially begun once we've finished this first step. But these teams are looking really good. I'm gonna say it again. Tox being the bottom on his team, and them still having 60 MMR cap, but might as well just add that to Tox and put them at 0 cap room. I'm gonna say that now. Dragons filling out their roster there with Prism. Great pickup. Venganza's pick just came in. They filled out their roster at with Freehole, who was from my org in Rival last season, bumped up here to Titan. Great pickup there as well. I skipped a pick here, so I'll get back to that. Spartans going with Bard, 1961. which I think this is a play here because I'm looking at 1797 available, and there's a player on there that we all have known in Nemesis for a while that fits that cap from exactly. So I'm curious if they're gonna go with Heck there. So we'll see what happens, but yeah, all these teams are looking really good. I'm excited. We've been saying it all night, but you know, as a prospect resident, I really enjoy watching these Titan games on stream.
Yeah, definitely. So as the picks coming through rapid fire, gonna push us on to the last and final round. As Bard going over the Spartans there. Gonna in 1961, likely the third, and then Frihole going to Venganza down there 1799. And I'm surprised Heck doesn't come off the board there 1797. So that's a little surprising to see there. Obviously, a lot of players here, and we're waiting on the last selection. And of course, we need an @ check on the last selection. Foam attempting to select Flick Fillet for his final his final pick here. So we will see if they are in the Discord. We'll get an @
They
check
are.
here, and it looks like Mealy. He's gonna be the one that's working hard to find him for us. So thank you, Mealy. We found him there. Dotto, also known as Flick Fillet, it appears. So
Love that name.
yeah, everything looks good. I mean, that's it there, right there, folks. We rounded out there, and that is gonna conclude the Titan League draft. So, we'll as we do one more time, guys. Let's go through these Titan teams real quick. Let's talk about who we think has the best one here at the moment. Mallow, again, as always, I will start with you, good sir.
All right. Yeah. Looking at these teams, I mean, to be honest, all of them are looking pretty good. But Pinnacle, Inferno, um, Blizzard, Nebula. I mean, that entire conference looks stacked. Don't sleep on the other conference either. There's a lot of good players on these rosters, and you know, one thing that I will say real quick as a quick note. Now, Titan and Novice, they both don't start with the other leagues. They get an extra week. They get a bye week the first week, so we won't see them in action this coming week. We'll see them the week after. I believe it's the 12th. That's when we'll see Titan the first time. But yeah, looking at these teams, I really don't see anything wrong with any of them. It's going to be all about chemistry and what clicks for these guys.
Yeah, some great teams for sure. I mean, it looks like there's almost a 2100 or a 2100 or near 2100 on pretty much every team here. Speed, so some great high end talent.
Yeah, it's crazy. The lowest top sal on a team is Pizza at 2048, who I think easily could probably be a 2100 plus, right?
Yep.
But I think I'm just gonna spitball here. I'm not shooting down any other team by no means. So when I say this, just know I love you all. You're all great players, but I think this might be the Godfather's year. I'm really looking at that roster with JP, Logan, Chef, Zenith. You know, and I think Sands may have finally done it. I think they might be my favorite to win the chip leading into this season. But again, you know, we talked about it, right? Nebula, Pinnacle, Inferno, Blizzard. They're all great, solid teams. Spartans having Pyros. I'm not too familiar with the rest of their lineup, but again, these are all Titan players. They're the best of the best. It really just boils down to knowing when to use, knowing what situation to use what mechanic, right? They all have all these mechanics in the bag, and I think once you get this high, it's just knowing um, when to use what mechanic and to mix it up differently. And so I think that's really the difference. So at any given time, any one of these teams, you know, can take the win, and it's also going to be which team can, you know, adapt to the other team's play style quicker and realize what they're trying to do and try to counteract that.
Yeah, no, I mean the differences between these teams at this point are just so minuscule. It's that's the craziness about Titan League, and that's I think why we love to watch them for sure. Mealy, how about you? Who are you looking at here? Some players or some teams maybe that you're looking out for?
So I know Speed. I already shouted them out, but and we talked about it earlier. But I really do like the Godfathers this season, and I'm hoping that they're able to get it done this season. I'm rooting for them. Um, One of my favorite teams, and I'm obviously biased, being a former Firestorm Org member, but that Inferno squad. I love Pizza, love Rock Ears, love Team Man. I'm sure I'm gonna love Juju, and he's gonna fit in just fine over there. So that's gonna be one of my favorite teams so far watching this season. Your Pinnacle squad is an incredible squad as well. Nebula acquiring Brandon, that's going to be insane. Bluey and Vulcan, again, that duo can never be stopped, it seems. Literally every single team that was drafted for this Titan League, I feel like fits so perfectly. And it's going to create a very, very interesting Titan season, I think.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. There are a lot of great pairings here, and I'm curious about a couple of these teams though. I'm curious about Venganza, how they're all going to fit together. Like I said, they just find a way somehow, some way. The Victory Org just finds a way. So I'm very curious to see how they work out. I'm also curious about the Spartans. A lot of people I don't quite recognize on there. I think I do recognize a couple of them, but not too much in Nemesis history. And then Blizzard as well. Not too many names that I recognize there either. So those are my three like big wild cards for the Titan League. Like those guys could, just come out and just start smacking some teams around. So I'm curious to see about those ones. But really, all in all, a great Titan League setup there. I'm excited. We finally got the drafts done. I appreciate you guys, Mallow, Speed, Mealy, for helping out today and yesterday. For you guys that helped yesterday as well. A lot of hard work, and once again, shout out to Kareem for these graphics, these new stream graphics. Oof, very spicy. So huge shout out Kareem. Happy belated birthday as well. Birthday was yesterday. So much love to Kareem for helping out with that. We appreciate it. But yeah, that is just about going to wrap it up. I'll swing us over to our subscriber screen again quick. Much love to everyone who supported us. So we had a lot of subscriptions today. So thank you guys for following, for subscribing. Big shout out to our Challenger Plus subscribers, Flame, Jax, Wiggle, Cow, Neons, and Street Soul, and everyone else that supported with the subs. I know JP went crazy earlier, and then we also saw Jax going crazy with the gifted subs. So much love to you guys and everyone else who has supported us throughout the evening and throughout the past couple of years. We do appreciate it a lot. And again, reminder for anyone, this goes for everyone. We said it a lot throughout the night, but what we will say is if you guys hadn't been drafted, make sure you guys stay active. Teams are always going to need free agent subs. They're always going to be switching rosters around. They're always needed. It's why we plan for a couple of free agents every season. You need to have the overflow, so that way we can have those free agents for when players go non-playing or things don't work out. So make sure you guys stay active in the Twitch, stay active in the Discord. That'll give you the best chance to play. Teams are always needing those subs, so be ready for that. But with that being said, folks, we appreciate you guys tuning in. It's been a fun couple nights here. I'm excited. We're finally going to get things going. So thank you all so much for watching, and we will see you guys in a couple days here, the 12th, May 12th, so about a week from now. We'll see you then for opening day. Can't wait to see you there. So take care, everyone, and we'll see you then.
I keep hearing voices in my head. I've been fighting thoughts of being dead. Just break me down until there's nothing left, so I can lay my demons all to rest. I'm at the point I've got nothing to lose. Is there some other path that I can choose? I understand if you don't wanna stay.